Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, and it is time for the year in review. It's technically January 2nd, so we're already in the future in 2025, but this has been a tradition for a while. How many of these have we done? Four, Witty? Four or five?
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't know. But where we go back and look at how we did the last year and talk about it and reminisce, and also it's therapeutic for us, so, you know. Join with me today. Let's see. Well, Alex, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then Witty, and then Kent.
Heyo, I'm Alex. I'm the product lead for gameplay.
Sweet.
I'm Whitrock. I also go by Witty. I'm a game designer. I've led many sets and lots of projects and stuff.
You're in Futureland right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Kent. I'm the finalization lead. We're kind of like we set pod 2.0. We do a bunch of the designs and balanced stuff before the set comes out.
Nice. All right. So let's talk about 2024. What a year. How you guys feeling about the year?
Did a lot. I mean, it was the first 3 sets a year.
Yep.
So that was the big change. It feels like we've been doing that forever now, but yeah, exciting.
Yeah, behind the scenes the development was so long, but yeah, now it's like our norm.
Yeah, it's our first 3 sets a year, and I think the year we've had the most sets being worked on at once, which I think got up to like 6 or 7 or something crazy. So
Yep.
yeah, we've we've been working on a lot of TFT.
Yeah, with all the stuff behind the scenes and yep. Cuz I think I've publicly said we were working all the way up to 17. So, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
kind of leading into the year, we had started to set the tone of doing something big like Remix Rumble. We were learning how to do big things. So starting off the year, I think basically already know that we're doing Arcane at the end of the
Oh, yeah.
year.
Oh yeah.
So lots of lead-in time for some big project like that.
Oh, and the set also had 2 big milestones, which was the opens, because Remix Rumble technically last year, but like the set ended this year, and then we also had Macau recently, so that's an exciting thing too, where like
Yeah,
the
well,
community just
which
comes
we'll
together.
get to the Macau, but yeah, because so 2023 ended with Vegas Open, and so starting 2024 we come back, and I'm looking at these patch notes highlights. I'm just like, that is a big patch, and I'm guessing part of it was like it was the holiday break. I don't remember the set needing this big a patch, but I think it was like holiday break, and
We were sitting on a lot of portals that we decided not to ship with.
oh
I also
right,
I also, right after Vegas, really wanted to make Crab Rave, so that
yes,
was went quickly into development, and then the whole I don't even know the whole story of the actual music collaboration is kind of a blur to me at this point. It just
oh
kind
well
of happened.
that comes later, but the Crab Rave portal itself was. Like you said, you wanted to make it, and I went, it has to kill you. This is our chance to finally have a PvE that kills you. And then
And
we
I
did
was like,
that.
of course, that sounds great.
Well, because I had wanted the red crab for so long, and we never got the red crab. So,
Yep. Said the dancing crab gets to kill you.
you know. Let's see. In-client spectate, which has worked flawlessly ever since we shipped it.
It's still
Right?
cool. Still cool that we have it.
It is cool. It is cool. My favorite is actually like when we're doing like the cast, like with Froden and stuff, and we have the ability to like watch what we want to watch and stuff. That feels pretty good. So, yeah, looking at these portals, Kent, a lot of these portals have stuck around, although some not so much. Crescendo, Decrescendo, Champ Delivery, but Radiant Blessing's back right now.
Yep.
I miss Treasure Armory.
Loot subscription's a popular one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the better changes was the all portals in the game have an equal chance of appearing. That was nice at the time. Oh, this was Streaks Gold. Wow, do you remember this change?
Oh, this was my proposal.
Yeah,
Oh.
this was because if you went like full win or full loss, you were getting the 3 gold on 2-7. So we changed it to you had to get to 6. I think this change actually ended up being very healthy for the game.
Yeah, this is really smart.
We revert part of this, right? We push back how quickly you can get to the like most money, which was kind of the point of this, was like people running away with the game. And then
the thing we reverted was the 2. The 2.
Yeah.
The 2 felt bad to lose the 2 streak, which we revert later, but the like needing to get to 6 to get the big one, that made a big difference. Really, yeah. especially because we were also dealing with inflation at the time and stuff like that.
Yeah, anytime we can find these little places to pull some inflation out of the game when it gets kind of wild. And at this point, we're more looking at data as well of like how much relative to the previous set are people like
Yep.
3-starring 4 and 5 costs. And I think it was kind of wild. So we
Yep.
were like, we gotta.
There were a lot. I mean, part of it was headliners too.
Yeah, we knew that going in.
Yep. Yeah, looking at the notes, it's like Emo was kind of unplayable, so Emo was getting some buffs. Spellweaver, which, you know, we haven't had any problems with Sorcerer on live or anything. These caster comps, man.
Yeah, we're having trouble with these caster classes. We're making something that people just want to go vertical, and our previous formula of like, you know, 2-piece tank, or 2-cost tank, 3-cost tank isn't proving out as good as it was in the past in modern TFT.
I'm gonna hit it when we get back, but I have some solves, but yeah, certainly like even back then it was kind of struggling a bit. So
one of the big
go ahead.
One of the big piece of this large-ish patch is we did the Heartsteel raise the stakes change.
Yes. Oh, I remember that change. That was. Oh, you want to tell the story, Alex?
Sure. Yeah, we had the original Heartsteel pitch, and I can't remember. I think it was just like conversations with other stakeholders across the team, and we're just not hitting the excitement bar and like the risk bar for Heartsteel. And you were in the office that day for some reason, Mort.
Yep.
And I remember just looking over at you, and I was like, we need to do something for Heartsteel to like make it more exciting. And I think you took 2 minutes and pitched something, and that's what we ended up shipping.
I was just like, look, if we're gonna do it, here's how we do it. Here's my answer, and like that's what we did, and it worked out. It did exactly what it needed to do, which was it added that element. It was a little basic of a solution because it was just like, we're gonna tack on fortune to it, yay! But like the raise the stakes was pretty fun. So
yeah, it was super fun. Then we chatted with Isaac, who's on art, and he just added like some extra VFX and a shake to the box, and it was super fun.
Yep. Yeah, that stuff like that, by the way, is still my fate. Like that's the stuff I still walk away the most satisfied with on TFT, where it was like, we have no resources, no time, come up with a solve that has incredibly high player impact. Those are my favorite moments, and I'm glad you brought that up, Witty, because like I even forgot that happened. It was just like, yep, that was a thing that we just kind of pulled out of our ass that day. Nice.
It was so fun until the end, and we'll talk about Ezreal at the end.
Yeah, because you hate us. Cool. Anything else on this patch? I'm not seeing anything else. This is a big patch. Cool. All right, moving on.
I think another reason it was big is we just didn't want to touch a lot before Vegas.
Well, yeah.
And we just held a lot of changes. We're like, it's fine for now.
Yep.
And then we just did a ton.
Yeah, and then we had the B patch post Vegas, but yeah. All right, so now we're on 14.2, and now we're back to like what looks like appropriate sized patches, trying to buff and nerf a few things, Cassante nerf, stuff like that. But the biggest one, hilariously enough, was Vanguard got turned on. And I remember this being like, it was like a big deal for a small group of people, and that small group of people definitely let me know it was a big deal for them, and I got a lot of DMs about this one.
I think most people were just confused why TFT needed it, but it's just a full client change, like you know, and it's just safety for everyone. So
yeah,
you get in a weird territory if people can poke at TFT and maybe figure out league exploits or what. It's all very very complicated.
Set revival 3.5. I think this was our first set revival, right?
Yep.
So.
Yeah. For set revivals, there was like so much BS that you just get reminded of when you play these set revivals. But part of it was intentional of like, yeah, we're gonna modernize a bunch of things in these set revivals, but also like, hey, that's nostalgic. I remember that thing was BS, and so keeping that, you know, a bit of that is important.
Yeah,
it's also just a. Oh, go ahead. No, I was gonna say there's a huge contingent of players that just like that BS. Like Phil, for example, on the team, like he loves just like winning something when he wasn't supposed to at all. Like he just likes that old TFT. So like we're hitting that or scratching that itch for a lot of players that missed that.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is we use it as sort of a test bed for some of the bag size stuff. And I know that's where we tried the like at first it was 50-50-50 2020. And like that ended up being pretty insane because it was like there were a lot of 3-star forecasts. There were a lot of 3-star 3 costs. I remember in particular the Blade Bros comp when this launched was pretty disgusting. Blade Master worked really well. So
Yeah, that's what they were called for sure.
yeah. Okay, well we can say it in my fine Bang Bros. We can call it that here.
Why was it even called that? Like they have
Don't
blades.
worry about it.
Because
Don't worry.
Esha's a degenerate. That's why.
A menace. Yeah.
I credit Esha for that one. I'm pretty sure that was him.
I think Esha named a lot of comps to this set. He was
In set
pretty
3,
prominent. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah, this was also this was the first time we did an Act 2 battle pass. So, yeah. It always feels like, at least for me, it's always harder to complete the second half of the battle pass because it's like you went so deep at the first start of the set, and then you're like, okay, it's a little harder. So, oh, Cruel Pact was offered on the Radiant Blessing portal.
Awesome. It's fun, Mort.
Cool.
I think the big thing here is Karthus rework.
Yeah, it seems like Karthus and Kale. The Kale rework was actually a big one. The Kale rework ended up being the kind of thing actually, like, I think the rework was good, but we never tuned her right, and she ended up being sort of like meta for the rest of the set. And like, I remember the finals were basically 2 costs and 5 costs. It was kind of like the meta. So I feel like we never kind of got her in the right place, but the rework itself was a lot better.
Yep, agree.
We're still attempting to balance Last Stand in this patch.
Yes. I mean, that certainly didn't bite us later in the charms at all.
Nah.
The Karthus rework, I don't remember actually being that successful. Am I wrong? It's just like it changed, but it didn't like change enough.
Yeah, Karthus never really. I don't know. I don't remember him ever really shining in the set or having a moment, which was kind of a bummer as like the 4 cost in Pentakill. But
well, that's because his spell, like, if he did shine, it was like it felt unhealthy, right? Like your team just kind of goes pop. So
Was just the combination with a Kali and Executioner was always the roughest piece.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like they were pretty defining though, because then Karthus Akali meant your corner was not safe, and if that existed in your lobby, you had to play a Lowy to put a tentacle in the corner, and it kind of defined like a way you had to position for the set.
Yep.
Yeah. He was like good secondary carry at least, I would say, throughout most of the set.
Yeah, and like even in Pentakill, like we did see him get played a bit. So yeah, the thing also is like this is also we're still dealing with like we launch a set and then we have to rework a bunch of stuff, which was one of the things that like being on the live side of things was very taxing. So
yeah, because whenever you rework something, it's kind of like KO, right? You have to figure out where the right balance point is, and it takes a lot longer to figure that out. It's when you're not in dev and you have the resources of like one person. So
yeah, I mean that's the thing. The no resources. It's like, well, you need to rework it, but you can't change any animations, have any new VFX change. Like good luck.
Hard.
So, all right, moving on to 14.3. So we are in a very small patch here that did need a B patch. Oh, introduced a bug that would allow superfan headliner items to sometimes carry on even if the trait wasn't active. Cool. Yay. I feel like bugs are going to be a theme throughout as well. There were definitely some challenges there. But otherwise, patch is still pretty small. Lunar Festival still going on. And again, I think this is where we're starting to get ready. Is there anything happening behind the scenes, by the way? Like, they were kind of through January here.
I mean, we're at layoffs. I think is worth noting. That is what has happened at the kind of end of January.
Layoffs was so weird because obviously it impacted the company really, really big, but TFT wise, it was like, which was kind of weird. Like, and it's hard when you're at a company of 3,000. Like, you don't really, contextualize everything, right? It's hard to contextualize past like what's affecting you, and so, yeah, I remember that being rough. How'd it go for you guys? Like,
I mean, I can at least say I'm immediately impacted because my behind the scenes was my like post set 10. I'm working on artifacts. I'm like cleaning up some random bugs, helping rework stuff, and then I'm working on 11. I think around now, which was not originally planned.
Yep.
Oh yeah, this is kind of around the time when 11 is planned to be design locked. So yeah, this early into basically set 10, we're like trying to lock 11 and work out from there with whatever lock designs we have. And I think 11 was like minorly impacted by this, which why we needed some of Witty's help as well to get this out, get that out the door.
Yep. Alex, anything?
Yeah, it was pretty brutal, I would say. Oh, sorry, hold on.
Okay.
So I have a dog that's distracting.
Yeah. Well, while he does that, this was also Kent. Weren't we like? This was the part with 11 where like it was okay, but it needed a lot of help.
Yeah, yeah. 11 still like we were trying to get to design lock, but there's just still a lot of work to be done, basically. I think there was a lot of augment stuff that needed to be done as well.
Yeah,
Which
well, I
wasn't on
remember. 'Cause
track.
isn't this when we had to do the first Omega meeting?
The yeah. Oh yeah, the first. I was gonna say the re-Omega meeting, but it was no, technically the first Omega meeting. Yeah.
You want to go into that?
That's
a little
when
bit?
that's when like Mort comes in, or back then it was when Mort comes in, he does a full review of the set and basically gives his notes on every single thing. It was a big learning moment for a team too, because everyone sits in, kind of like listens to the conversations that the leads have with Mort. So it was at the time in that room, it was me, Linda, who's the set lead, and Mort talking through all the champions and all the traits.
Yep.
And then making big changes as needed, basically. So we have 2 weeks to implement and then go from there.
But the good news is like that was like one Omega. We call it that now, but like you handle the Omega meetings now, right?
Yeah, so now that was kind of like the Mort one, and afterwards the finalization lead takes over for set 12 and 13. And so now whenever finalization joins a new set, the team and me do a big review of the set, and then I sit down with the set lead and then just go through everything. And then same thing, 2 weeks, big redesigns of all the things that need to be redesigned, and then we go from there. So it's a big moment for set development for us.
I remember we had the Omega meeting. We also had like encounters, which like were just okay. So we had to have like Tim come in and help with encounters. Witty, I think you helped with that a little bit as well.
Much encounter stuff, but I remember doing like I remember going from trying to make a bunch of new artifact items to wait, we need to finish these ink shadow items, which was a fun little jump.
Yep.
Yeah, I think encounters mostly needed implementation. I remember the big thing that came out of that meeting more was Spellweaver. That was, I think, the thing we spent the most time trying to get into a better spot.
Oh yeah. Because coming out of the Omega meeting, there were definitely like 2 traits and 4 champs that were like, we're gonna figure this out tomorrow. It's like,
yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's always like big things that come out that are also like, okay, we don't have a solve like in this meeting. We're gonna need to take time again to like talk about this and go through it. A story weaver is what you meant, right? I think you said spell weaver, but
oh yeah, story weaver. Sorry.
Yeah.
Storyweaver.
Yeah. Because story. Okay. Yeah. Story weaver was like, okay. Yes. Story weaver was definitely the big thing that needed a lot of adjustments.
So I don't remember what the original state of it was. Was it just overly complex? Like, was there too many choices?
It was a lot more choices. It was a lot more like, it's the kind of thing for someone watching this video, they're probably like, a lot more choices. That sounds great. But it was pretty tough to work, so. Yeah, it was
a lot of times when we give player choices, it's really difficult for players to decide like which choice is better for them in which spot. Not that we can't ever do this, but it's like just we need to help make that clear to the player. If you have 3 different carry choices, which one's the right one, and how do you know that choice was good for you this game? Well, it's really hard to convey.
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I mean, even Storyweaver, which ended up basically being A, B, or C, still kind of got solved into pick this one all the time, So, yeah.
Also, for context on kind of that level of stuff, like a lot of time it comes down to where we are in the dev cycle. Like if we had hit that problem, for example, like a couple months before, I think we'd have a lot more time to explore the more choices and more options. But because where we were in the dev cycle, we kind of had to peel back and make quicker decisions just to get it into the game and balanced and ready to go.
Yep.
We were so close to design lock deadline, so we were trying to get everything done.
Yep. All right, moving on to 14.4. And this patch is tiny because this is the, Remix Rumble Finals. So, and yeah, I mean, Team Planner got some love. Vanguard got delayed a little bit. Dragon Claw got buffed and nerfed a little bit. Yeah, I'm trying to see, like it said double up. Oh, we made another pass on double up where we changed some of the assist armories that were problematic, stuff like that. I think over the last like 2 or 3 years, we keep going, hey, double up needs a little love, and we like throw it the world's tiniest bandage, but we've never really given it the big love it needs. And thankfully, we announced that that's coming next year. But these always feel like a little nice thing to have, but definitely not amazing. And this one was the Spatulas and Tome of Traits no longer appearing because it made chase traits way too easy to hit and double up. So yeah.
This is the couple patches in a row we've tried to touch on Country 7. I don't know if we ever really nailed
No.
7 Country to make that one feel good.
No, in fact, I'm going to go so far as to say I think Country might be one of the worst summon traits we'd had in like ever. Like it,
Yeah, I
just,
mean,
it felt flat.
It's a good old horse. That's it.
Yep.
For better, for worse.
I mean, we took some good learnings from it though, and like applied it to the future, 11 or 12, 11, 12, and 13 because
Oh, yeah.
it's like, the unit was so supportive, had so much of its power in its support, so it wasn't able to be the star and the carry. And now we're like really focused on, if you're gonna go to something as far as 7, this thing is going to be the focus of your comp, and it's got to be important.
So I'm going to tease us. We have to be self-deprecating a little bit here. I like how you said we learned a bunch, and then we talk
Sure.
about 12, where Eldridge totally landed and was totally meta. Nope. Like
Yeah.
if anything, if we've kind of been struggling with summon traits a little bit.
Yeah, but if you hit 10 more,
Oh, I mean, yeah, 10 Eldridge was amazing, which we'll talk about
ARAM
that
wall
later.
there. Hell yeah.
Like if anything, I think we've been kind of struggling to make summon traits. Although Black Rose, but yeah. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm biased, but Country did have Samira, which is one of my favorite champions we've shipped. Witty knows this. I played that every playtest for like a month straight.
Yeah.
I love that champion.
Yep. All right, then we move on to 14.5. This is where Set 11 is on PBE. We did the for fun thing where I buff a bunch of stuff. I think, was this our last real like for fun patch? Like we kind of have stopped doing those really for the most part.
Yeah, with
So-
Chonks, there's just no point. Everyone wants to play Chonks at the end, and like that is for fun. Like at
Yep.
the end, you get to do everything that you never got to accomplish during the
I
set.
mean,
So
One thing here, if you want to talk about it now, it says nerf Ezreal.
I
The
loved
only thing
Heartsteel
nerfed.
for the first 2.5 months of that set, and then Mort just wouldn't nerf Ezreal. I don't get it. And he just won every game for the last month and a half.
He did win a lot of games. Ezreal was a little too good, The other big thing in this patch, we shipped it early to get ready for it, but this was the big loot distribution update, where now everyone gets the same amount of loot. This was a big deal, and it
Ooh.
feels like it's been around forever now. But like this one, I think was one of the best quality of life changes we've shipped in a while. So
Yeah, this was huge. It always feels bad when you feel like the loot has affected how your game played out. But now, everyone just gets the same thing. You can't complain anymore. And
Yep.
also prismatic orbs, which I don't think landed well when we first shipped them. They weren't very balanced, but we eventually got them to a better spot. But I mean, they're fun. You get this gigantic orb that comes out. So
No,
that's
Kent,
cool.
that was the problem. They were balanced. That's why they weren't fun. Now they're not balanced, and you get so much fun stuff.
that we did start with them pretty light for sure. But I think like people used to complain about someone else getting a 12 gold opener when you had a 6 gold opener, right? Like that's just gone now. That's just not part of the game anymore. And I'm not going to say they're perfect, right? I saw recently someone was complaining about gold orbs. It's like my 9 gold is not equal to their spatula. F you, Riot. It's like, yeah, we're not like perfect or anything here, but it definitely made the game a lot more like fair. So
Yeah, I mean, professional players used to talk about how like if they got a gold opener, they would hit 20 gold by like 2-2, and their placement was like 2.0 basically
20
every
equals
single
30
game that they
equals
got.
40 equals 50.
Yeah. So that's gone now. There's no disadvantage there or like advantage there for getting the gold openers. So
The way I always look at it as a player that I find fun too is like you open your first orb, right? It's always gold. And then you open your second one and it's like if it's ever gold, you're like, "Oh, it's a high gold game. Let's go." Like you kind of get excited. It's almost like another modifier to the game, which is kind of fun. So, or it's a 5 item opener or, it's like those modifiers are kind of fun.
before we move on, this is not important, but 60 AD to 90 AD Blitzcrank.
Oh yeah.
30 AD buff.
I mean, it was the for fun patch. I was doing silly stuff.
That's a Kent buff right there. That's something Kent would want.
That's a Rage Blade Blitzcrank angle.
Yeah, exactly. This is like when you told me Cassante could be a carry in a playtest, and I went a fast 8th.
Yep.
You were like, just put a death plate on him. He does so much damage. Yeah, no.
You did. You would one-shot anything in the
Yeah, I
game.
killed
One
one
guy.
unit.
Yeah.
Crab
The
Rave,
fun-
by the
fun
way.
to power ratio.
So this is also when Crabbrave got its music.
Yes.
And so the way this happened was I tweeted out about Crabbrave or something, and then the owners of that song replied and were like, "We love TFT. Let's do this." And I was like, "Hey, comms people, here." And then they went and ran with it, and they did all the work, but it was like a lot more work than apparently it was. Alex, do you know more from that point?
I mean, most of the work honestly was just like legal stuff. We had to loop in legal, just around like having the music in the game, how long we could have it in the game, and all of that. Like that was the like hard part, but like they were such good partners the whole way. They were just like, please use our song. We love TFT. So it was just really cool.
That's pretty neat.
Very cool.
Yeah, like I said, a bunch of for fun changes. I'm sure I did something silly. Cassante spell, trying to make Cassante carry work for Kent. Yeah.
This is PBE for 11. I don't remember how that went.
I don't remember either because it's been so long.
I just
Kent,
don't
you remember?
remember.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the calendar right now.
I
Okay.
mean, I know
Oh,
I was helping at the time, so I remember it being busy.
we did this weird thing where finalization had to
right.
start on 12 right away. And
Right.
so
So it was just me and Chalky by ourselves for this.
and Iniko-ish, like he
Yep.
was like 70-30 split. And so it was
So I
we
remember
were
being
learning
very
how to
busy.
function as the team, but
Yeah.
as a new team, but yeah, that was really busy for you guys.
I did not like that play. I did not like hey, we got the set to PBE. Have fun. Yeah, that was a little rough. I remember being a little tired on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, moving on. Set 11 launched. Woohoo! Encounters and Inkborn stuff and augments and portals. Yeah. What do you guys remember from the set?
I loved this set. I have a really soft spot in my heart for 11. I think specifically thematically, like it was just like if I was gonna dream up any thematic set for TFT, it was what Linda and her team came up with for 11. So I have a big soft spot for 11.
I mean, plus one that Linda always crushes thematics. Like I know she was doing like research on her trip to like make sure that she landed the thematics, and I think even like I know some people are critical of this set, but the people who are critical always are like, but it looks amazing, So yeah, her and the art team did really good there.
Yeah, we put in a lot of effort around like skin lines and working with different like groups within Riot to make sure we were representing everything correctly across cultures. And Linda and everyone just put in so much effort around that to make sure it all came out like we wanted and in a respectful way.
Yep. The encounter mechanic was actually a variation of a pitch dating back like 2 years ago from Medler Andre, where he was like, hey, every game, like what happens each game would change, and like where the carousels are and where the augments are would change every game. And so encounters were like a lighter version of that. I think we learned that players don't really want that much variation in the game. It's like that level of variance was pretty extreme, where it's just like, surprise, now it's a game where rerolls cost 1, and it was a little much. But there were some solid encounters in there though.
Yeah, I think we learned there's a lot of nuance to it too. Like the Lilia ones, like no one cared when they got their augments all on stage 2. It was when they didn't get their augments until like stage 4 or 5, like players hated that. I think the distinction is like if players can plan around it, they're in. If they can't make a plan of like what they want to do that game, it's really hard for them to like wrap their head around what they want to do.
Yep. Witty, Kent, any set 11 thoughts as we launch it?
Oh, when did we rework all the support items? I'm trying to think of that.
Oh, that's later.
Oh, it's later. Okay.
Yeah, it's later.
Yeah.
I certainly remember I was looking at the set through a weird lens at this point because we have the plan for all the artifacts, which we know we're going to launch in the middle of the set. Yep. So I'm kind of looking last minute like, oh, how are units going to play out? And is artifacts going to like make a already really strong champion just like Omega busted and make the whole set? Like I'm afraid of like, oh, this was the, I don't know, whoever is just Aurelia's insane all set because how could they possibly have released Broken Aurelia and then released Broken Vamp Scepter or whatever?
Yep. This was also a pretty big augment refresh. It wasn't like set 13 size, but it was still a big augment refresh with some now classic ones like Call to Chaos. I think that is like one of my favorite augments of all time now, and it was introduced. But looking through the list here, there are a lot of new augments.
Yeah, and that always
Yep.
that always feels so good to have those. It's easy to forget how good the big augment refreshes feel, but especially if you're just like playing the first like month of each set, you're like, wow, I get to experience so much new stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the big things to touch on that happened closer to the end is we always did kind of think about like backline access, CC, things like that. But for this set, we had a very deliberate like framework mapping of how backline access worked, how much backline access was in each line, in each cost, where do we want to place it, where do we want it to be okay and not okay, where for frustration levels, things like that. I'm not going to claim that we got everything perfect, for the first time we ever made this framework, but this was one of the sets where towards the end we're like, yeah, okay, we're going to shave off here, add in here. What roles can we use to, make things feel less egregious? So.
Yep.
This is also when we started working out with set.
Yes, working out with set does make you bigger. That was because wasn't there a bug where he was appearing like way too often also? So like that kind of poisoned the initial reaction of encounters as well. So by the way, shout out to Froden here. I'm loading up his tweet because he did his year in review. So if there's anything we missed, because we're like in March now, Malala winning his the set 10 championship was pretty wild because he went Vegas into that, which was pretty insane.
Second in regionals too, right? And then world champion. Crazy.
Yep. So working out with set makes you bigger. Yep. Okay. Cool. So the set has launched, which means at that point the set 11 pod starts to become the set 14 pod, and this is where we really start kicking off the future stuff, right? Because at this point we're planning 14 and 15 and 16, and we did it very out of order for reasons we can't talk about. But I think at this point it was like 14 and 16, which would later become 17, are starting to kick off at this point.
Yep, we had 16 probably even before 14. 15 was nothing, and then we started working on 14 soon after this.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about more of that in a bit. Moving on to 14.7. So we launched the set, making some balance adjustments, also adding some hero augments.
This Kale change. Frontline Kale. Delete your backline first cast. That was
the blue buff frontline Kale.
Yeah.
I think that also started Tim, like every playtest now or every new set, it's like, what can I put on the front line to blow up the enemy team? Like during development for Into the Arcane, he was always the frontline powder trying to make it work, and it kind of did work,
Yeah, at some point during Into the Arcane, we had Vander absorb some of the family's damage just as like an early mechanic, and the first thing he thought was, I'm going to put powder in the front line, Vander will tank for me, and then it worked. She would cast, and blow everything up. And we're like, yeah, okay, we don't really like that.
Yep.
Well, we had the Kale and Twin Terror Lux at the same time.
Yes.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, that's like I said, we kind of launched with some degenerate stuff here that wasn't particularly great. So
this is the Bard Yone meta also.
Yep.
Like separately.
Bard feels a lot like Kog'Maw now on live, where it's like the attack speed 3 cost is the easiest thing to get into. So when you're first learning the set, it feels stronger than it is. And when you lose to it, it's like, he's insane. And then it falls off a cliff. And like Bard, I think, ended up getting nerfed and then actually kind of like disappeared from the meta, even though it was a pretty light nerf, just because he wasn't actually that OP. So... And Kog'Maw probably would have fallen out of the meta if not for the whatever his trait's called, the buff, Automata buff.
Automata, yeah.
That buff kind of re-brought him back a little bit, but
Kog'Maw was also kind of a learning evolution on Bard, because Bard was double Rageblade, Gunblade, and that was like, man, you have to go double Rageblade to enable this champion. How do we make it so Kog'Maw doesn't need double Rage Blade. You can use Shojin, you can use blue buff, you can use one Rage Blade. It's like, obviously there's a Rage Blade bis, or like, certain items are bis, but not like double
Yep.
Rage Blade Gunblade only. And so
Exactly.
yeah.
Encounters are starting to get their first adjustments, including set being seen less often. Some of the ones that were just a little extreme, like the Aurelia free carousel delay, where it was just like everyone got released at the same time. Yep. Oh, this is when the Wandering Trainers became Trainer Sentinels.
Oh yeah, Kent worked on that.
Oh yeah. Big thing was that like Sentinel was such a class that we could use in the future, and
Well, no,
so
the big problem was we had the Wandering Trainer Augment and the Wandering Trainer Portal. And if you ever got both, because they were both dummies, you didn't get +2 to the trait.
oh, I thought you meant the rename. Oh, we renamed them to golems from Sentinels at some point. But yes,
No, this is literally when the dummies became the golems.
Oh. I mean, that
And
was
originally it was just going to be, we'll just not have one. And I said, no, 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 we have to have both because I'm the chaos monkey of the team.
Yep.
And
yep.
it all worked. It's so fun.
Well, because I remember because we were walking to I think Tacos Por Favor when this conversation happened, and it was like, well, what could we use? And I was like, I don't know, we have like the blue buff. Why don't we try like that? And I know Kent, you were like, but we can't do that. And like, I forget how but basically we ended up going like, yeah, let's just make the golem work.
I vaguely remember us saying something like, wait, it's gonna be so funny with like sniper golem just in the back slamming the ground. This will be great. And then that's
Yep.
that's how
I was gonna say, I think it literally started this slide to creating stuff like that, like the new dummy that shoots. Like I think it opened the door to people start thinking like, oh, what are the other cool things
Yep.
we can create in this space? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh yeah, stage 2 prismatic orb masterwork upgrade can no longer, so we're starting to balance the prismatic orbs a little bit. Trying to figure those out, which it's funny because when those launched, everyone thought the masterwork upgrades were the OP thing. Now I'm pretty sure people think they're bad. So pretty interesting how that's come full circle. Fortune getting changed a bit. Oh yeah, because Fortune 7 was bonkers. Fortune 7 was way too good. Storyweaver changes. Fortune was definitely like, Kent, do you remember how this Fortune trait came about? Because I remember this was another one that like came in kind of hot and.
Oh yeah. This one was, we were working on a bunch of other things, and it was like we needed to do a lot of work on Fortune. We pulled Phil off of everything else and was like, please help with Fortune. And I think you and him worked closely together on like
Yep.
redesigning the tables plus adding a secret breakpoint where the tree comes to life.
Well, the tree was him. Like the tree was him being creative and me just kind of going, I support you. You can do this. And we had our first hidden trait. That was a Phil special. I think the more complicated thing though was like we wanted it to be like Old Fortune, but with all the new learnings from Heartsteel. So it was like we can't let this be a trait that you only play if you get it on 2-1 and 2-2 and that's it. So we had to give it the like behind the scenes Heartsteel number scaling with stage scaling.
Right.
And like that was the complicated part that like has made the trait much harder. But all in all, I don't remember this Fortune sort of being like as it was just like it's fine.
Yeah, I think the core of it was for the longest time, Linda's goal was I just want to reprint Fortune. Everyone loves Fortune, we just want to reprint it. Set 10 rolled around with Heartsteel, and I think post playing Heartsteel, you in particular, Mort, were like, no, we can't do just Fortune
Yep.
like anymore. Like it's just not going to hit the bar. And I think that's why we had to kind of adapt like near the end.
Yeah, which I stand by that assessment. I think if we literally just shipped Old Fortune, it would not have.
Oh
hit the
yeah,
bar.
yeah. I mean, I don't disagree, but you were the one that really called it out because everyone else was like, "Oh yeah," and we just didn't think about it because there's so much else going on.
Yep.
They were like, "Oh yeah, Fortune was good. Like we have other stuff to focus on." And then you were. I mean, this is also kind of your specialty. Like I think you are probably the most knowledgeable by far
Of
around
the
these
high
traits
risk
in
traits.
particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Support items. Do we wait? Have support items launched at this point?
No, I think they're coming out next patch, either
Okay, because
14.8 or
I'm seeing
14.9.
something. A niche build utilizing fine vintage and Zerat void spawns.
So I have a lot of feelings about this comp, and I was very sad that we nerfed it into the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
This was
Like,
the
I-
heavenly one, right?
This is the heavenly one. Like I think this was actually really healthy, cool innovation, and we killed it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The goal wasn't to kill it. The goal was to like slightly nerf it. But yeah, we did end up killing it, which wasn't
killed
great.
it. Yeah.
So wait, support items are out, but not artifacts. Oh, wait, no. Okay, support items and artifacts exist, but you haven't done the new pass of a bunch of new artifacts. That's what this is.
Oh, yeah. We just have the old.
Yeah, we just have the old ones. So
Well, Tim did a. When did Tim's support items come out?
around the
I
same
think we
time.
At the same time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
I
Okay.
think it's 14.9 if I'm
Yep.
getting my notes.
We did a quick hyper roll pass. Hyper roll is the mode that like it I don't know. Hyper roll is going to exist at this point. It feels like forever. We haven't had the time to devote to making something better than hyper roll, but we also know hyper roll is like meh, you know.
It's fun for what it is.
I mean, yeah, we're not going to kill it, you know, but all right, 14.8. Moving on. Still some more stuff here. Nerfing Fortune, nerfing Ink Shadow, nerfing stuff like this. I think we're in like April now. So if anything's going on behind the scenes.
We're in mid-April, and yeah, I'd say here's where we're really starting to at least figure out kind of the themes and order of things that are going to happen in 2025, right? Because 11 is out, you know, and generally the structure is, well, the 11 pod would be working on 14.
Yep.
That means the 12 pod is, relatively speaking, not that far from launching and not that far from needing to know what they're working on next. So there's some like figuring out the basics going on. And we usually start with theme, so mapping that out.
Yeah. On this time, I've got set 18 thematic with you, Witty. I also have set 14 thematic going on at the same time. So I think we were doing themes for both of those sets right around this time and figuring out what the heck we wanted to do.
Right, and to be clear, when we say 18 there, that was later became 16, which later became 17. Like we actually have nothing right now for 18, to be clear.
Yeah, we do this weird thing internally where we know the number does not mean the date it releases. It more means some other thing, whether it's like, oh, this is the team we want to work on it, or like maybe we actually do know the theme, we're just trying to figure out where to put it. So we've got very confusing
because
numbers in our heads that are fake.
Because by then I at this point I assume we had the mechanic for what is now 16, because I had pitched that a while back, right?
Oh yeah.
Like that's
Oh yeah.
that's still a thing, and we were kind of like anchoring around that a little bit. And then Kent, you're obviously finalization working on 12 here at this point, so.
Yeah, we had around this point we had just finished the Omega meeting. One of the big things was like a bunch of the 5 costs needed work.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we were focused on at this point.
Yeah. The other thing was it felt like again we had a set that like had a solid mechanic, which was charms, but the original version was like really light. So that was another one. I think it comes a little later, but we had to do another pass where it's like add 30 more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I say the Omega meeting's done, but that doesn't mean the set's like close to finish. There's still a bunch of work from here. We kind of joined the set, you know, like a month beforehand, and we're finally doing all these like big changes. From there, we still need to play test and still do a bunch of like balance and redesign, some redesign work before we go live players.
Yeah, comment I made the other day talking about a future, you know, we do a lot of these kind of content set mechanics like charms where there's a lot of individual pieces, and all the time we're talking about like how many do we need. My answer has quickly become as many as we can make. It's just the system is probably more fun if there's more variety in it. So it's there's not a right number, it's how much can we literally do.
I will say the one that has like, so I agree with you with like encounters and charms and stuff like that. I think anomalies might have disproven that. I don't know that anomalies gets much better if you add like 30 more anomalies.
See that?
You know, like it Alex, you're disagreeing?
I think we maybe the number doesn't change, but I think we missed the mark on weird.
Oh
for
yeah,
anomalies.
no, I'm with you there. But like,
Yeah.
I think the quantity, like, I don't know that like having another 20 or 30 makes it magically better. Whereas like charms, I think if you'd had 20 or 30 more, like it got better, right? In fact, when we added them at the like mid set, it got better. So,
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. And looking at Froden's year in review, he's got the dummy into golems. He's got the fine vintage build. That's kind of what he's talking about. And then I think next patch, because it's also on Froden's here, is I think when we have 20 new artifacts and 5 support items. So I mean, Witty, you were the head charge on this. So what do you want to say?
Yeah, this was a really fun project. And I mean, the core goal was always we've slowly but surely made the core item system a little more like generic to try to be more flexible, but that meant a lot of the fun item designs got pushed to the wayside over time. RFC being the like really obvious one, but I mean, from hopefully the new artifacts you've also seen, we kind of push into wilder stuff that it's still a challenge for us now because every set we're like, all right, not only are we balancing the set, we're balancing against items, we're balancing against all the new augments, but then we're like, what are the weird artifact interactions? Or the opposite, like, oops, we made a set where this artifact is good on literally nobody. So another new niche, but I think important piece of TFT.
Yep. So hilariously enough, this patch kind of ended up becoming the 11.25, if you will, which has now become a thing a little bit. But we did the player damage change that you wanted, Alex, that was really good to simplify the system. And this is always just base damage plus 1 per unit alive. Keeps it nice and simple, which I know some of the challenger players were pretty opposed to because it like flattened how important those last few units were. But from a learnability standpoint, it is just such a more elegant system now.
Yeah, agreed. I think this spawned. I was probably pinging you about it more, but I was like, there is something that just feels bad right now about player damage, and I couldn't stick my finger on it. I think I talked to you about it for like 4 or 5 days straight, and I was like, I don't know what it is, but something is not right here.
Yep. So, we did some more encounter stuff. We're making some of the ones that weren't appearing very often, like Kane appears more often, so players actually got to experience it. If you haven't, the artifacts, trait adjustments. Yeah.
We were dealing with pretty heavy inflation with the encounter system, so the shop odds got
we had the
reduced.
shop odds. The shop odds were also to try to help like reroll comps, because at the time, I think reroll comps were actually struggling pretty hard, and it was like way too inconsistent to hit. I know Nico was a big proponent of this, where he was just like, why would you ever risk rerolling? Because if you don't hit, you just go fast 8th. And so we're trying to edge that into a little bit of just like, it's a little easier to hit. So, yeah. And then, okay. On the topic of artifacts, I gotta grief you a little bit here, Witty. I'm gonna give you some grief. Where's Cursed Blade?
It's so cursed. That item internally, externally, we've found a lot of different issues, and most of them have been the game literally breaks. So I don't know.
Yeah, how many 0 HP? How many 0 HP infinite fights have happened because of that item?
Yep, and it's not exactly. I don't have people knocking on my door saying, "Please bring back Curse Blade." It was kind of the whole point of it was be like, it's Curse Blade. It's
hey, you
back.
know what would counter the new tank Kog'Maw build right now? Curse Blade. Curse Blade would go, or it would counter Lux. It would counter Lone Hero Lux.
Maybe after the break we can dig back into the curses.
Wait, have players ever seen it? Like, do they know
it was there for a patch? It was there.
It was on PBE too, yeah.
And then it kept finding bugs, and we kept having to disable it. And we're like, we'll get back to it, and then we kind of didn't. So
I was like, wow, did we just reveal a big secret here?
No,
coming back. Oh, okay.
No, it was totally playable. Leduc, definitely had his fun with it for a little bit. So yeah, but
just
overall,
for the art.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, just for the artifact stuff though, I do want to give Witty his roses. He owned that thing fully. Like, he found icons, he did the balance, like he was working with finalization. Witty crushed it. So I just want to give him his roses on that. And he cooked up some really, really fun items.
Oh, yeah, and they're super fun when you hit the god combos. So
yeah, I remember early proposals and just sort of being like, this one, no, this one, and then there were some I'm just like, amazing, like Fishbones. I'm just like, yep, great, love it, fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely a lot of the approach for something. I mean, we set this kind of lofty goal of 20, but we were going over like 60. And trust me, some of those ideas are terrible.
Oh yeah, I remember reviewing them and sort of going, no, and here's why. But there's some good ones.
But that's also what gets us some stupid but shippable stuff like Suspicious Trenchcoat. Of some people saw that, they were like, nope. Or I mean, we ended up disabling a forbidden idol, but we had some fun with that for a time. So
Yep. Yeah, Trenchcoat right now is actually public enemy #1, I think, of artifacts.
Yep.
It's gotten pretty strong.
Understandable.
I think it's the interactions with like Edge of Night and stuff like that. And then Tim did some of the support items, which some worked out and some not so much. The first version of Spite was pretty bad, but
Yeah. And the new version of Spite worked out a lot better, but yeah, initially I think a lot of these actually are good. Like they're not going to have the hype of artifacts, obviously. They're support items, but like they each solved the purpose. They had to clear like, oh, here's when I would take this. Moonstone was OP, but Spite sucked. There were some issues, but for the most part, I think these landed pretty well.
Yep. All right, moving on. We're 14-10. So artifacts are out. We're doing a lot more balanced stuff. So this looks like a big patch of buff a bunch of stuff that's not being played. I know Ghostly at this time was kind of not really being played because Ghostly was such a weird trait, and it's like it was so hard to play. We got some big learnings from Ghostly.
Yep.
But yeah, augments buff. So it's just this is one of those patches. It's like we're trying to buff more than we're nerfing to get more things playable. So. Oh yeah. Oh, and we removed prismatic orbs from Krugs. So, which I know made you a little sad, Alex, but we kind of had to.
Yeah. But the trade-off was worth because this is when we increased all the stuff in them.
Yep.
So
yeah, average gold value went from 24 to 40.
Yeah,
so, like,
I was
we got
fine with that trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah, now you get Prismatic Pipeline to just get it there anyway. So, by the way, for whatever reason, this is the one patch notes that has a light background, so I've just blinded the viewers with this screen. So,
yeah. I was surprised.
Yep.
When I clicked into this tab. Holy.
Yep, artifacts getting adjusted based on that. Some of them, yeah, like Unending Despair is a good example, Witty, where like that one hasn't really found its niche quite yet. It always gets really close, and we keep buffing it. So eventually what's going to happen is someone's going to find a build that's going to be like, oh, you know. So yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think, like I said, at this point, we're just kind of making a set behind the scenes, working on stuff, because we're not at May yet. Or I think we're just starting to hit May.
We're just, I'm looking at behind the scenes. Now we're closer to most of our theme stuff has been sorted out for the following year, and we're getting into chunky mechanical or like
when was the 2-week period where I came in? Was that May or June? The first one.
June.
Okay, so we're not there yet. We're getting close to that.
Because it's about the same time that we do Talkers.
Oh God, was Talkers around here? Was in May?
Talkers is in June. I definitely have that one written down.
Talkers was in June.
Okay. Well, then I think
you guys are working on it at this point because I have on the calendar that Philip is working on Talkers with you guys.
Yeah, your first speed run was in early May.
Yeah, I was about to say it was May because I remember it being around my birthday, my actual birthday, viewers.
It was the week of the 14th.
Yeah, so I think we're doing our first thing behind the scenes. So this was you, me, Witty, Mort, and Giovanni working on what would later become. I think this one was 16, right? Yeah.
Yes, this was the 16 one, which at the time was 18.
Right,
now
which later is 16. Yeah. So behind the scenes, this is where we're starting to do the we're getting really, really far ahead. And so the patches are pretty light because we're starting to get to this point where it's like the set's pretty finalized. Some hero augment nerfs, some minor nerfs, but we're also getting ready. But here's actually a big thing that none of us were involved in, but definitely deserves a shout out. The rotating shop. The rotating shop and I think that has been a big success. I think for a long time people were like, what if I just want a particular thing? I think this was a massive improvement to our cosmetic distribution. So
yeah, agreed. Huge shout out to the cosmetics team on this. It landed really well. Players love it. They've gotten I've gotten cool stuff from it, so
yeah. So that was a big launch.
It's also around the time of Chunk's Treasure, right? That's what I have on the calendar. We're not as involved in that, but finalization does help with minor changes to it.
Yeah, so end of set 11 is like we do the chunks thing. So because 12 we'll talk later has Pengu's Party, but yeah.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. So actually, no, here you go. 14-12. TFT's birthday bash, Pengu Party. So,
Ah.
so yeah, this was a big deal. Pengu's Party, that mode, I remember behind the scenes, again, not our area, but it went through some adjustments, and then they got some tips, and then they went with one final direction, and the final direction worked out great. For a fun mode, this was a really fun mode, and it was like just enough because you were starting to get like a little bored with the set, and then the permutations of like, wait, I can make this character a mech, or I can make like, it was actually a really fun mode. I really liked Pengu's Party.
Yeah, I agree. Pengu's Party was such a blast to play. I think the traits that they brought back were really well chosen. Like I was so excited by all of them. Yeah, and players love this mode. They played so much Pengu's Party.
No.
I definitely had some fun conversations with Skip and the team about, yeah, what should we bring back from sets like 1 to 3? And I was like, well, you got some options.
I mean, the fact that you brought back Phantom, and you could tell it was like, it never really became viable on purpose. It was like, if this is viable, it's not going to be very fun.
Yeah.
So
I think Tim said that exact same thing. He's like, okay, so how do we make Phantom actually good and balanced? Well, actually, do we want it to be like good? Do we want players to be picking this every game?
nope.
So
Nope. There were some, like I said, there were some really fun like mech combinations or boss combinations though. Those I think made the set really fun for me.
oh yeah, the boss item was so much fun. You just
Yep.
the things you could do with some of the augment combinations.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm gonna start my Bring Back Glacial campaign starting next week when we're
Oh
back in the
god.
office.
Oh god. I don't.
It's all right, Mort. You're not in the office. You can't stop me.
True, I suppose. And then yeah, like you said, behind the scenes, we're doing our first big thing, Witty, which I gotta say, I thought that went really well. So
Yeah, getting a lot of future planning done, and design work that still hasn't launched yet, but should
Yep.
be good.
But
And I was go for it.
Well, I was gonna say it's starting. It's like the big theme going on right now behind the scenes. Then it translates into what we did and translates into future work. Is like TFT is at its complexity ceiling. I know people have heard me say this on stream a bunch, and so a lot of what we're doing is like focus on the core. Where can we simplify it? Where can we find it to get its best? Where can we cut off all these edges that less experienced designers are kind of adding on that don't need to be there? And so like we're basically kind of taking sandpaper to the game behind the scenes and like really trying to smooth it out more. And I think that's a big thing that will continue in 2025, but is starting to really take hold here.
Oh, another behind the scenes thing that's happening here. We're still like 1 month out from set 12 release, but on the calendar, there's already a like early Omega meeting that I had with Sean and Julian for set 13, because there's so many unique models that need unique animations.
Yep.
So we had to lock those early, or at least get a direction for them early. And so we were going through all of that and making sure that they're in a chippable mechanical spot.
Yeah, that's right. We had to get pretty ahead on like 13 was definitely the set we knew we wanted to like crank it up a bit. And like you said, all the special models, if we change those later, it was going to be a problem. I remember there being some good talks about like Smeech and Savika especially were kind of the more complicated ones. So
yeah, they were higher risk. There's also like, even with the 5 costs that already exist, like Caitlyn and things like that, we knew they were going to be in the set 100% because they're in the show. So we could lock those, or like at least get direction for those a lot earlier.
I think the other big thing, this was you and I and Giovanni's first review of 14. So we did our paper structure review.
Oh, really?
With
Was that
Liv,
soon? Wow.
Yep,
Yeah,
in
okay.
May. Because remember, she started really early on the set.
Yep.
Even before 11 moved over, because she went straight from 10 to 14. So
Right.
yeah, this is the first time we started looking at set 14 stuff.
Okay. Yep. So yeah, and I'll say personally, I don't know if you were experiencing this, Alex, but this is definitely getting to the point where it's like, wait, so I'm keeping track of live and 12 and 13 and 14 and 16. Like my brain's starting to become mush. Like I've never had to juggle this much before, and it's starting to show. It's starting to crack.
Yeah, May was really rough because I remember I'd go from like 14, and then we would talk to Kent about 12 stuff and making sure that was in a good spot. Because this was also the exact same time we were working on Sugarcraft and trying to get Sugarcraft into a better position as well.
Yes.
Because that one took a lot of work
Yep.
to get in a good spot.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm doing various I was about to say the internal name, various charms stuff at this point. And
yeah, because you
trying to
were
get
helping with
that.
the charms to make sure, because we were like, it was flat. We needed to add a bunch more, because that was when Kent and I and Alex did the like brainstorm, which we then went to Kent and Tim and Witty and I know there's one other person that and Matt that helped make them all. So
Well, I'm glad that was actually one of my highlights of the year. I think you, Kent, and I just sat down for like 2 hours and we just came up with crazy charms. Yeah, that was so fun.
Alex came up with Shivify.
It's true.
And then he would never click it. Like on live.
Also
Hello?
true.
I like Shivify.
So
I
true.
like
Me too.
Shivify. Wait, that's not true. Wait. It was unclickable in stage 3. Then we moved it to stage 2, and it became OP.
True.
Yeah, but Alex still never clicked it.
That is
Wait,
also
what?
true. It's true. I'm a creator, Mort, not a user.
Aw.
I just helped with some implementation, but I definitely intentionally grabbed what I thought would be maybe the best and worst, which was Shivify and Summon Dragon as my
Yep.
my tasks.
Oh, that was my other pitch. That it turned into Summon Dragon, but originally it was Monster Trainer, and it would give you whatever the last PvE round that you beat would join your team for the next stage, and then it turned into just the dragon.
So I remember that. Did you see the bug that we accidentally introduced on PBE?
Yeah, no, that was great.
Yeah, so you basically accidentally introduced Monster Trainer into the game.
Yeah, it all turned out. We got to play it. Players loved it. There was so much talk about it on Reddit.
I will say that, but like clearly we're gonna have to do something with this at some point. Like, you know, as much as I love the videos of first 3-star scuttle dragon, like
it would be cool to have jungle monsters in TFT. That's for sure.
Yep.
Shivify, I know it took Witty like a day or two to. It was kind of pretty complicated to implement, right? Because you had to change the items back.
Yeah.
And then
making sure you don't lose track of items or other augments change. Also, try to change your items or delete it.
Yeah, and then like thieves gloves, things like that, and then it went on PBE, and there were so many bugs. I remember spending so long also like fixing bugs with this charm. Oh my god.
Yep.
Artifactify and Shivify were so complicated behind the scenes. It's crazy.
Yes.
That's why I have people like Witty and Linda. Whenever we come up with a wacky idea, we're just like, come implement this really quick. I know you're busy, but we need you.
All right, so we're moving on to patch 14.13. This is where we're starting to get ready for the Ink Shadows finals. So the patch is very, very tiny. It's nerfing a couple hero augments. It's buffing Built Diff. Built Diff, the augment that is either wildly OP or completely garbage. It has no in-between. That continues to be its existence. Also, Riot Summer Break. So, you know, where we all clearly take a bunch of time off and totally decompress. And I'm shaking my head no, you guys can't see it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think here's where we can probably fully talk about the lead in to Talker's Trials, which ships in a couple with 12, but we like I don't know, we should talk about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to debate because there are parts of Talker's Trials we're supposed to keep quiet about its development.
Fair.
But the TLDR of it is a small team that initially started as me, Witty, and Phil came together and quickly made a very small base version of it. And it was like to prove out that it could work. And everyone played it and was like, yeah, this is solid. This could work. And then we quickly you did it and then got it to the like state that could be shippable, and because like the first version only had like 20 levels and like no bosses, and then we did the like 30 levels. We tried some like boss variation for a while, cut that. We added the score system, but basically it felt like a like mini. It felt like my old days at Nintendo working on like Aura Climber, where it was like we had direction, we had our goals, we did it quickly, we knew exactly what we were making, and we did it. And I don't know, like we made it quickly.
Yeah, this was a fun project. I was playing a lot of Balatro at the time, so kind of getting to do a PvE sort of thing, and the like point system was fun. I think maybe the biggest thing, other than trying to do this like really quickly, was we weren't exactly sure when we were gonna ship it, so we were making levels for different things and figuring out what would work. But I certainly was happy that we did this, and maybe we can talk about it more when it ships in for 13. But I think this has been quite good for TFT.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, you were the product lead. I mean, you want to...
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I remember correctly, we made it all in 11 at first, right? But then it didn't ship until 12. So we actually made a whole Talker's Trials for 11 content, and then we landed on when it was gonna ship, and then we made it all for 12.
Well, I think the 11 version though was only the 20 levels. I don't think we did the full.
Fair.
Yeah,
and there was
so it
no
wasn't
chaos
the
mode.
full, but yeah.
Yeah, but still. But yeah, it was a small team. It was literally Witty, Phil, Mort, Dave on VizD, and Honorog. I think that was about it. And it was a blast. Like I think we met every other day or so,
Yep.
made super quick decisions and just shipped it. Yeah, it was really fun. And I'm very proud of the team for getting that out.
Yeah, I keep saying quickly. Someday we'll say how quickly, but for now it's just quickly.
Is that a secret? Are we not allowed?
It's quickly. Is
All
the,
right, quickly. We're
Yep.
speedy.
Yep.
And
But
Witty says he was playing Balatro. For the record, our whole team was playing Balatro. I would just walk by finalization and they were all just playing Balatro.
yeah, Nico was deep into Balatro. Tim
It
was
was
into Balatro.
it was a dark month for TFT.
Sometimes there's a game that comes out and it's like, oh no, everyone is playing it. All of our we're comparing all the work
Yep.
that we do to this is like this
Yep.
Joker or whatever.
Yeah, this is also because of the thing we worked on, Witty, plus talkers. Like I was coming into the office a lot during these times, which was a lot for me. But we got to see everybody, so it was good.
It's dark times for us too. Mort would be there looking over our shoulders. What are you doing?
It became a running gag, by the way. So Kent, okay, can I tell him the running gag about you in the office, Kent, that I always throw at you?
Which one? Yeah, just say it.
Okay, so anytime I see Kent away from his computer at the office, I will just tease him. I'm like, "Do you even work? I never see you at your desk. What are you doing? Do you ever work?"
I had a day where I had like 6 hours of meetings, and he's like, "I haven't seen you at this. You've done 0 work today." I'm like, "I'm talking about 13. I'm talking about 12." Like,
And I'm never serious, but it's become this running gag where the second Kent comes back to his desk from anything, I'm like, "Are you even working? Do you ever?"
Yeah, I'll like go to the bathroom for like 2 minutes, and like, "Why are you away from your desk again?"
Just so you know, Mort, that joke's continued on. Like, because most of the time, Aniko and I are always there, and anytime that it's only Aniko, he'll just look around and be like, "Oh, I guess I'm the only one working today."
Nice.
The only one without meetings, man.
True. All right, moving on. We're hitting June, which is starting to be a pretty tough life here, which we'll talk about in a bit. But is this the for fun patch? I think this is. So wait, okay. Oh, we're in July. Okay, we're in July. So this is a big deal for me personally, at least, because I'm not here. I'm moving. So like I am off the grid, and I tried to be like actually off the grid. I did not. Like I was doing that thing where because I can't. I would see what you guys were doing, and I was checking Slack, but like I kept my mouth shut the whole time. So like this for fun patch, this was like Prism and Chalky coming together and like figuring out what changes would be really fun. So that was pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah. The changes I don't remember being that big or anything, but they were there, and so we said goodbye to Ink Shadows. And by the way, Dish Soap won, which was kind of cool. So continuing the NA streak. But then the real talk is this is where the set 12 is on PBE. And so this is, again, PBE cycle. I'm not there. Kent, you want to talk about this?
Oh, I was just gonna say Malphite got an AS buff, so Rageblade Malphite. Every single for fun patch, there's one new Rageblade build. It's lit.
Nice.
Yeah, set 12 is on PBE. Mort's not here, so we also learned from set 11 not to hop off and go into the next set right away. So we're helping out with the set on PBE for the first week at least, and then leaving Chalky and Iniko, who were live at the time, to finish up for the last like day or two. But yeah, just lots of iterations. The set didn't, there was a 12.25, so it's not like we got everything into a perfect spot. There were still like big changes that needed to be made, but with what we had and not being able to make any design changes, it was just trying to get balance as good as possible.
And there's some clear learnings, which we'll talk about in the very next patch, but definitely some oopsies in the PBE cycle for sure.
Yeah, I think the big one that I remember more, because I actually pinged you about it around like what I thought the solve should be, but there was something we did around charms during the PBE cycle, like around the system side.
Yes, this was like how many and how often they appear and the difficulty of them. You were messaging me
Yeah,
about this.
and stage scale. Yeah, I talked through a couple options with you before I went to the team.
Right. This was okay. I remember what this was. when we tested it with the influencers, we had them appearing in every other shop.
That's what it was.
And a lot of the influencers' first reaction, which later ended up being false, I think, but their initial reaction was, this is too complicated. I'm reading these far too often, and it's too much mind share, and I'm overwhelmed.
Yep.
And you came back to me from the influencer, because I'm still like not supposed to be looking at stuff, but you're messaging me, and you're like, what do we do about this? And we talked about solves, and what we went with was how about every third shop, but then later it goes to every other shop, to at least slow it down. Because we talked about, like, do we need to, like, and we also did a pass and cut a bunch of the complicated ones. That was the other part of the equation.
Or delayed shipping.
We delayed shipping them,
yep.
yeah.
Like 2 patches out.
Because we had like 100 ready or whatever, and I think it was Kent who did the pass, or Kent, do you remember who did the pass where we like took all the complicated ones and said later?
It was with Matt together. It was just like,
Okay.
which are the ones that we can just like kind of delay and push back, and so he did the first pass on that.
Right. So rather than shipping with like 100, we shipped with like 60 of the like easier ones and slowed down how you saw them, and then we would decide to do the drip content, which was, I think, a big win also, and I think that actually worked out really well.
I remember the discussion was like, we were gonna move to 3, but then it would make late game really rough because every 3 shops get one, and it was
Right.
the game was, we've accepted that the set is pretty dependent on Charms late game, but Sam had talked about like we can just update the little nub, and players already kind of know it's already talking about Charms. We'll use that to signal the shift to every 2 shops, and we can also do the thing where it's like it's gonna appear in your next shop.
Yep.
And to help even more, and so we were able to do that it's a little bit more complex, but it worked out.
Yeah, I think in the end, Charms ended up being a pretty solid mechanic. I think, I think it's a perfect example of a set mechanic. It's like, it was good for the set. You remember it from the set. It's not good for permanent TFT. It doesn't need to stick around, but like, it was fun.
Yeah, I think it. Oh, go ahead, Woody.
Certainly, that was my highlight of playing 12. Was there's a lot of fun comps and different things to do, but just the charm system was really really fun. At least for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Charms landed really well. I think our big miss on Charms is more in the UX space. I don't think we
the wands and
portrayed things as we should have, both category wise or visually. So I think that was the biggest miss. But in terms of like what they did, I think Matt did a really good job owning it. But I mean, I would love for Charms to come back at some point or in a different version. I think they're super fun.
Yep.
Even something as simple as like coin flip, just like I got a gold, hell yeah.
Oh,
It's fun.
Woody, do you want to talk about the debug text?
There might have been Balatro inspired when you failed the coin flip.
Nope.
Yeah, nope.
Someone got rid of it. I
Amazing.
would've kept it.
The Chibi Gwen and the Cafe Cuties launched here, by the way. These cosmetics were very successful. Those players really like these. That's what we'll say about that. Yeah.
Only reason Mort was able to buy a new house.
Oh, shut up.
Yep.
Someone actually posted that literally yesterday. They were like, so glad you get to live in your dream house because Riot sells cosmetics. It's like, yeah, okay. That's exactly how it works,
All right.
He has his like Gwen wing, and then he has his Twitch wing. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, my daughter's bedroom is actually the Gwen room. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
This came with Spite rework.
Yep.
Needlessly big gem rework, which I think was excellent.
Oh yeah,
one where it
Needlessly Big
ramps up
Gem's
over
really
time.
good now. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was also bag sizes going back up for 1, 2, and 3 costs, which I'm generally happy with. To be honest, I actually think they could even go higher for 1, 2, and 3 costs. Obviously not for 4 and 5, which is a whole other discussion, but pretty happy with that change. Yeah. So I think the set launched. So now so the set launched, and the meta involved a particular champion, Syndra. Yeah. And Kent, do you remember exactly?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Syndra. So we were on PBE. Syndra sucked. Players were starting to we buffed Syndra. Players were starting to discover something, but we fixed a bug where she used to lose a mana if she started attacking too fast. And so we fixed the bug with her like lockout time, but we fixed it in a way that caused more problems because now she had a really tiny lockout, and it meant mana generation was dependent more on attack speed. If you built double Rage Blade, that was the bis. And even when the set launched, that players didn't figure that out yet. It was like, oh, there's one Rage Blade, or like Shojin Nashers. But eventually it developed more and more into, yeah, you just build double Rage Blade because she casts nonstop and you get to like 150 stacks and you just annihilate the enemy team.
Yeah,
But
there are certain rules in TFT that people like Witty and I have figured out over the years that we need to like establish as laws. One of them is like champions need a lockout time when they cast their spell. And that dates all the way back to Renekton. Right? Remember that, Witty?
It's so easy for tanks or like melee carries to get into infinite loops. For backliners, you start when you don't have the cast time, you just can kind of go infinite or get going at a rate
So
that
this is relevant
game
because
doesn't
Tank
support.
Kog'Maw right now is literally this problem. He has no lockout. Like we got to remember to give every champion a lockout as much as you might want to fight it. Like the other one that's come up on live is like if you shield yourself, you need to be mana locked. Like
Yeah, and I'll say it this way: the rough part is it's always coming from a place of well, this lockout feels bad when I have 5.0 attack speed. And it's like, well, if it doesn't feel at least a little bit bad, it's not doing its job, which is to make sure your character does not break the game with 5.0 attack speed.
yeah, or even if lockouts scaled with attack speed, that'd be one thing. But usually these lockouts are like you said, tank situations where they're just like, you know, because Renekton was literally like insta spinning back in the day, you know.
Yeah.
in 12 we did lockout scaling with attack speed a little bit with like Varus. In 13 we used it more liberally, but like in general the fix when a unit loses mana on an attack should be to make sure that the lockout matches the animation and make sure the animation is locked out long enough rather than going the opposite direction of giving them no lockout so they just spam.
Yeah.
And our mana system has always been kind of funky. We still talk at times about like should it kind of just work differently so that we don't get into these kind of situations. So it's still worth like poking at, but there's definitely some clear don't do this.
Yep.
Speaking of mana, this is the set where Philip did the big thing of overflow mana now banks. This was huge because now Shojin, there's no more spreadsheet of like when Shojin is better. You bank the mana, it's good.
Yeah, that's another example of like simplifying a system, right? It's like I don't want to have to think about mana overflow. It's just like give me mana good. Now I will say we've pushed that too far sometimes. We have to have a talk later about nothing wasted. I don't think that needed to bank 400 mana that you cast 5 times. But, you know, the Shojin part of this was very good.
Yeah, I have many regrets about nothing wasted. When your ally dies, gain 80 mana. Okay, cool. Let's ship that. Like, oh man.
Gain 80 mana that can't be wasted in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that, like, so the common question that comes here is why not B-patch Syndra? And I think this was where we were also going through some growing pains of like the live team versus the finalization team versus just like our product goals of like how often are we making changes? What size are those changes, right? Like a lot of the times internally we still to this day have debates about like should TFT be a game that is changing every week and changing drastically? Balance thrashing is a term that gets thrown around. Or are we doing light changes that it takes 4 patches to fix a thing? And I think Set 12 was us having a bit of an identity crisis around this fact again, where it's like, what is our balance methodology? What is our approach? How are we going to do this? And we kind of struggled with that a bit in Set 12. So, Alex, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's tough as well because I want to offer the space to the team to make those decisions. Like I don't want to always be like we need to be patched, or even for you to say like we need to be patched, and like giving the live team the space to kind of decide like if they want to or not. Whereas like I might be sitting there being like, man, I'm really tired of playing against Syndra. I wish we would be patch this. But it's part of growth and part of, you know, leading a really big team with a lot of different opinions. So
part of this is philosophy too of like, you know, we want to avoid thrash because players don't like when their thing gets thrashed too hard, but we also need to make sure that if we B-patch something, it's big enough that there's a change that because players are tired of playing the same thing, and we're saying there's a B-patch, it should matter. And so finding the line there is difficult.
The
Ultimately,
multicaster effect.
Yeah, so ultimately, I think it is better to like thrash than not thrash. If we can avoid thrash, that's good, but if you just don't, if nothing changes, it's multicaster again, and it's like another, week or two of playing against the same thing, and that feels really bad.
Yeah, we've learned this lesson a few times, multicaster Jax in set 8, where if we just inch changes, but players don't actually feel it, that is way worse for
Yeah.
like retention and players wanting to keep playing. Whereas like they'd rather be like, no, this thing is really annoying, please kill it. And it's okay if we, it's dead for a patch. Like that's okay.
Yeah, so generally to share with you, if you're watching the video and you're an hour, 20 minutes into it, you get to hear me say this. Generally, our balance philosophy now has sort of been established, and Set 12 sort of forced us to establish this. But basically, if we have to B patch it, we need to swing hard. Like we're gonna hit it with a hammer, we're gonna take it out of commission and then bring it back necessarily. Whereas if it's part of a normal patch and it's like not necessarily a problem, we're going to go very, very light. So using live as an example right now, Automata is strong, but it's not like B patch worthy. And so when we change Automata in the next patch, it will probably be very light. It's like we still want Automata to be good, but less good, just a little less good. But if we were like, if let's say we had the ability to B patch Lux right now, we'd probably hit it with a hammer. So I think that's going to be our philosophy moving forward.
And for the record, like with Syndra, just for all the knowers that are watching this, this is really it all boils down to Kent, because we had a cool Syndra spell at the very beginning of 12 that would A, remove solo tanks, and B,
Okay.
not have this problem. So if you have any Syndra qualms, please direct them directly to Kent.
Okay. To explain, the spell was the reprint of the set 5 Syndra.
Yep.
Pick someone up, throw them into the backline, and delete them, essentially. And so this was like backline access, destroy frontline tank,
Yep.
and tons of disruption. So with Shojin, you're just like doom, 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 doom. It was toxic.
Alex said it was fun. What's the problem?
Yeah, fun.
Alex says it's fun until his backline gets deleted. Then he pings me and says, "Kent, where's my backline?" And then I have to fix the problem.
Then you
anyways.
say it's a skill diff, spread out, noob.
Or you make it do no damage, and then she doesn't ever use any items. And
Oh
then-
God! Oh, the support. Oh no! Then I get mad. Yeah.
Nope.
Oh,
The
one of the
triangle.
things. One of the things with Syndra is not like that we could have caught this necessarily, but this is one of those like optimizations that we should have caught, like the attack speed Syndra build. It was kind of late that we made the PBE change, like a day before branch cut or something.
I think that's the big
but-
issue. But yeah.
For sure. But like being able to discover the outliers is something big we took into set 13, where we put a lot more active effort into really trying to catch these extreme things. And it actually led to us cutting a few things or like making some changes around
the board string tournaments.
Yeah, the board string tournament. So we basically have pre-made decks, essentially. We create boards with very strict rules that like Iniko put around that are realistic to a game, as realistic as possible, I guess. And then everyone submits it. So these are like the caps. People are trying to build Exodias, essentially. And then we have them fight off against each other, and we spectate. We all view and see like, okay, is this okay or not? Even if it loses, right? It's like, is this healthy or not? And that's we discovered Hungry Crab. It's like, this is probably fine. There was like a backline Twitch experiment build where he would get 40,000 HP with Forbidden Idol. We're like, that's not okay, you know.
There was an anomaly that was Crystal Skin, which said you only take 100 damage at a time, and like that, we found a lot of broken stuff with that, and that was like, nope, not shipping that anomaly, you know.
Which is Urgot's experiment bonus wasn't like every time you cast gain a thing. It was every time you switch targets, gain the shield and attack speed. And Twitch switches targets every attack. So Twitch was just like gaining infinite amounts of health. And Chalky, being the professional card game player that he is, put that together, and he's like, haha.
Yep.
And yeah, it was literally Exodia. Like nothing could ever beat this.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, we're now in August. We're at the end of August. We're at 17, and this is where we're starting to pay some of the prices of the set 12 a little bit. Like the balance is pretty rough. Like these patches are big. These patches are really big. It's not going great. So struggling a bit there.
We're also leading into the 14.25.
That's next patch. Yep.
Okay.
So that's next patch. But we're getting ready for it. So behind the scenes, we're also trying to prep for it. So it's like there's even some things here where it's like we know we need to do more, but we're going to wait a second and deal with it next patch. Behind the scenes, though, Witty, so I finished my move, and then we did our second behind the scenes thing, you, me, and Giovanni, because we needed another one. And that became the thing that you're working on now in Futureland. So
Yes. So we're again lots of planning, designing ahead, and
Yep.
yeah, that's what I.
Anything else behind the
if I
scenes
go
in
what I'm working on.
August? Like I'm not thinking of. I mean, obviously you're working on 13 at this point, Kent. So
Yep.
a lot of Omega Meeting 13. Alex, anything else I'm missing?
This isn't the most exciting. This is for like the nerdiest of nerds, but VFX and engineering put a lot of effort in 12 and 13 in terms of mobile performance and particles. And for any mobile players, it's paid off a ton in terms of frame rate and stuff. So shout out to both of those teams.
Nice.
I know it's not the sexiest topic, but it was really good work.
Nice. That is good work. Cool. All right. Moving on. So yeah, 14-18. This was our like 0.25. And there's some good in here. The frying pan, I think, was great. Getting rid of Tome of Traits finally, I think that was good. I think the pan has been a success, and I'm really happy with the pan. I would say about 70 to 80% of the like changes that we made were decent. And then I think there were some big misses. Fairy, Gwen, and there was one other big miss. Who was the other? Oh, was it? Do you remember who they were, Ken? It was Gwen, and there was one other really terrible one.
Someone else's itemization changed.
Right. Oh, Wukong.
It was Gwen and
Wukong.
Yeah, Wukong.
It was Gwen and
Wukong was-
Wukong were the big misses that were just like, we took some learnings where it was like, when you change a character's itemization, those were terrible. But you know, it was kind of fun for players to get a big thing like this, but also we never want to be in the situation. We also told ourselves we never want to be in the situation where this is necessary again. So
Yep.
we've been putting a lot of effort into making sure that's not the case. And like 13 won't have a giant, let's rework half the traits kind of thing.
Yeah, a bit more back, because like this kind of was pre-planned and kind of wasn't.
Yes.
And it was three things coming together sort of at the same time. There was this frying pan project that I had wanted to do literally since set 5 and shadow items, actually. Just the wait, there's another component that builds into the other emblems. We just finally found a time to do that work. There was the charms. I think this is when we did the most like rework and addition of the charms we had been like sitting on, because you know it's just a nice thing to package a couple weeks into the patch.
It was the end game charms. We needed
Yep.
more
Oh,
end game
yes.
charms because
Yes.
we were gonna drip a bunch of charms, but we needed specifically more combat ones at the end game, so everyone wasn't playing Dragon and Tremors or Quake or whatever. So
Do you want to
that's
give
what it was.
Inigo credit for that though? He was very vocal about like,
We
well,
need
Dragon. If we were gonna keep Dragon, we need more of these things, and we're like, okay, yeah,
Yeah. So sorry, way to keep going.
But then the third piece being, and I think Giovanni really pushed for this, was, hey, if things don't land well, we shouldn't just let them sit around. We should try to rework them.
Yep.
We don't want to do it, but if it is gonna make the game better, we're gonna do it.
Yep. Yeah. So Giovanni put a bunch of effort in, and you know, like I said, some of them worked out, some of them didn't. But overall, like I said, I'd say it was like 70-30, 70 good, 30 a little rough. So.
To go back a little bit, but now that we're talking about Giovanni, if you guys remember set 12 PB, the other big thing that we had to do was up all of the 3-star 5 costs at the last minute because none of them were
Oh,
hitting the
yes.
bar. So Giovanni and Sam came in and reworked, I think, all of them, and they ended up really cool. But that was a little bit hectic.
Yeah, the one
Because
I'm
we had
really
no
proud
art
of.
support.
The one I'm really proud of Sam for was the rework to Milo 3-star 5 cost, where he threw the cursed items.
Yeah, that was so fun.
That was neat.
shadow items or super shadow items.
Yeah. They're like, you are stunned for the rest of combat. Enjoy.
Yeah. In general, we were like, there was a good amount of stuff that we shipped that we just didn't have time to do a full rework or like get into a good enough spot. And Giovanni offered to help with 14-18 get a lot of those redesigns in, which ended up making the set a lot better. So like hopefully, you know, we'll do this every single set going forward before the set launches, like we were able to do for 13. But
Yep.
Yeah.
Hilariously, one other thing that got added here: 4-star champions. So that became a thing because everyone
Worth
kept
the
like
wait.
we had the augment that everyone kept getting to 27 copies and being like, the fuck, give it to me. And so
Yeah.
I was like, Tim and I were like, let's do it. So
Great change.
yep.
This isn't the final form, Mort, but we could always talk about item removers because I think that was a conversation that lasted the entire year.
Oh, you want to talk about that? We can talk about that.
I mean, I don't want to. You can.
Should we disclose this is the question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so.
Okay. So again, we talked about simplifying the game and making the game more approachable. One of the things that we knew was that our item system is the most complicated system out there. It's the hardest part about TFT to learn. And if you make a mistake or you put the item in a wrong spot, it's incredibly punishing, right? Like you build a Bloodthirster on a 2-cost champion and then later hit a 4-cost champion, and you have to sell the champion to buy a new, but like it's a champion that's part of your trait web, so it feels bad. And we knew this was a problem we wanted to solve. In addition, modes like Chonk's Treasure and Pengu's Party just gave everybody a golden remover. They said, F it. Everyone gets a golden remover. And players loved it. Players were
Well, it wasn't even that. We asked them to, remember? Because it was similar to the bag sizes. We wanted them to test, what do players do with this?
Yes. So yes, we asked them to do it. They did, and players loved it, and we're like, it's a golden remover. And so everyone on the team, gameplay-wise, was like, we should just give everybody a golden remover. We should give everyone a golden remover. And I know, Alex, you were on my case about this pretty hard.
Not everyone. Kent, in this very call, was anti-golden remover, and I think still is.
Okay, I am anti-gold. I like the current state of removers where you can stack them infinitely. And I was like, we can give players a lot of removers, just not literally a golden one.
Well, so I was like, I'll be honest with you, I was very undecisive here. I'm like, look, I see the pros and cons of both. And so, but the thing I said was, if we ship golden remover and it ends up being too much, we can't go backwards. It will be impossible to go, now instead of golden remover, you get a single remover that stacks. Like that was impossible. I'm like, we're going to have to work our way towards there. And so I came up with the first version, which wasn't perfect, but it was with what we had because we couldn't stack at the time. We didn't have the new item UI at the time. And it was, if you don't have a remover, we'll give you one. So you have one to play with. And it showed a lot of the positive trends, but clearly wasn't good enough. A bunch of people were like, it's super confusing to have to remember to use it, which was bad. And so then we made the next iteration, which was, okay, now we're just going to give you one every time. It's much simpler. And I think Julian implemented the stacking in the most hacky way possible, which if you don't know how this works, he literally created 10 different items. They're called 1 remover, 2 removers, 3 removers, 4 removers. And so like if you have the 3 remover and you drop a remover, it says delete the 3 remover and give you the 4 remover. It's like the stupidest way to implement it.
Without going too much into detail, it's actually, there's like technical complexity behind it being able to have the removers actually stack. And so this is like,
it was clever. It's clever hacky.
It was pretty last minute too. This is like, if we had more time, we could for sure do a cleaner solve. This was just like, set 13 needed to come out the door. So
yeah. And so my take on it is like, I think we made the right call, which was don't fast forward to the insane solution. And I think we have a good solution here, which has worked well for us. And I've enjoyed it in the game. And it's funny because I'll have games where I feel like I have 5 removers and I'm doing nothing with them. And I'll have games where I'm struggling. Like I'm like, oh shoot, I wish I'd saved another one. Like but this also could be one of those things where like I'm being too nitpicky on like the skill expression, and like actually we should just make it nice and casual and give everyone a golden remover. But if that ends up being the case, we can still move there now, right? It's like we still have the room. And so from a long-term perspective, I think we've went the right path. So
when Mort realizes I'm right in set 20, just hit an Alex was right in the comments, please.
That's fair. Like, you know, I've even told Alex, you and I have talked about this a bit. I've even said that like I think I'm being a bit of a coward here, but I'm being cautious.
I know, and that's why I'm giving you a hard time because like normally you and I are so quick to just do it.
To just do the
and
fastest
this
good
is
thing.
This is so unlike you.
Yeah.
Since I know like very engaged players watch this, players are gonna optimize the crap out of this. Like they will remove their tank items every single fight, put it on the right units every single fight because you have infinite amount of them. Why wouldn't you put Warmogs on the unit being targeted?
That was one of the things. One of the trade-offs we had to do was Thieves' Gloves wouldn't show you the items until combat started, so that you weren't just using your golden remover to move the Thieves' Gloves onto the optimal person every time. Like
Oh, it
there were
was
definitely
so
trade-offs of
ugly.
just give you a golden remover.
Yeah.
So,
We still have to solve all of them if we do move to that world. But
right.
yeah,
But I'll say right now, in case anyone's curious of like, oh, they're gonna. Right now, I'm in the opinion of we don't need to change anything. I think we're in a good spot right now. So there's no like plans to change this, but just giving you some behind the scenes of the discussions that happen. So,
we're gonna see the comments already say Alex is right before we even make the change.
I mean, it fits for like a million other things that we've already talked about in this video, so it's
I'll tell you what, Alex. If
Oh.
Alex is right is the most upvoted comment on the YouTube thing, I'll owe you a burrito.
Oh, done.
Perfect.
I do want to say that the reason that I feel so passionate about this is probably not for the people watching this video.
Yes.
It was the reaction to the Golden Remover on everyone on the team that doesn't play TFT as much or isn't as skilled. They love the Golden Remover. Like it just unbridled them to make, to keep that one cost carry and move the items, and like they're not using it in the way that Ken's talking about, and that is why I do feel so passionate about it. And to be clear too, I think Mort's and what we have now is great, but that is why I've been fighting for it so hard.
Yeah, and like I said, I see it. I'm with you.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so we did this mini rework, and then we spend the next few patches cleaning up the mess a little bit, because we're in September now, end of September. I think this is when I had to come back again for another behind the scenes future set stuff. I think that sounds about right. So this is like my third trip, although I didn't have to come back for the second one, but this is another trip back. So I'm there for 2 weeks. But yeah, we're making adjustments. So this is also when 13 is starting to like get to a really good spot, right? Like, because isn't 13 got ahead of schedule, and like 13's feeling good.
13 moved fast. There's so much content, 600 plus pieces of individual content in set 13, because we did the big augment refresh as well. So there's so much stuff that needed to be done, but for how much that needed to be done, yeah, the team was moving really, really, really quickly.
Because I remember I had to do the one more behind the scene thing with Sloan for future set, and then I come back, and that's when I start helping with like the 6 costs and stuff like that, right, Kent?
Yeah, we're starting to get close to that. This is the end of September, right? October is when we start really doing the jam days with you in them every day. So like we're getting to a spot where we're almost like locked, quote unquote, before we start focusing on balance for the next month.
Yep. One other thing to call out here before we move on is Dawn of Heroes Revival, which again, major shout out to that team. The progression system was a lot of fun for players, having reason to keep playing it. I got so many messages about how the health bar they earned was so cool and they wanted to keep that. So that was another one of those like last minute things where that team was like, this is something we can do. We don't have the infrastructure to let them keep it, but we can give them something neat. So, but I think the team did a really good job on pushing the set revivals even further.
Yeah, Christina's team like really crushed it. She's the product lead for events. And I remember she reached out and she was like, hey, would you mind if we had these health bars show up in normal and ranked? And she showed me the health bars, and I was like, these are sick. Yeah, like, of course, like, players are going to love showing these off. And then the original plan, actually, for those was they were going to turn off at the end of the event. But then we saw the player reaction and how much players loved them. And then they decided to let you keep them on through the rest of the set, that we could show off that cool health bar.
Yep. Cool. All right, we are on patch 1420. And we're still having to do a lot of B patches to do some cleanup stuff, but we're in start of October. Yeah, patches are still larger than we'd want them to be at this point. So, like I said, set 12 was a bit of a struggle. I think at this point we're also struggling with like Fairy pretty hard. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Froden's thing, and it's like Callista Fairy is pretty meta at this point.
I just opened the patch notes. It's just Rakan staring at me. Yay. Fun meta.
Yes. I got sent a lot of screenshots of Rakan tanking 60,000 damage and people being pretty tired of that.
Cinder would have helped, I think.
What's that?
Cinder that original Cinder pitch might have. I don't know. I don't know.
I had the Curse Blade or
Curse Blade would have helped. True.
Yeah.
But yeah, behind the scenes, like I said, this is where I remember 6 costs really struggling a little bit with like Victor and like items and not. So I remember this is where I'm starting to help a little bit with 13.
Yeah, we were really struggling to get to the right. We were trying to figure out both like the optimal distribution goals, like how often do we want players to see them, how strong should they be, and then also how do we make sure that they're not garbage without items, but also like good enough with items. And Victor was one of the big struggles. Warwick was kind of another one, but Mort came in and helped out with those. The whole like mana system, no mana system Victor was Mort pitch.
Yeah. I think the other really telling thing is, and I think I like this about our team, is like the internal reactions to 6 costs, right? Because it was like Aniko and Chalky like hated them, right? Because it was like very clearly representing that player base that's like, when somebody hits this, I guess they just win. And like there was in a lot of our playtests, there was even like a lot of sarcasm where it's just like, guess they hit a 6 cost, right? But it was like, we still have these goals of like, we need to ship these. And so figuring out a version that can get them to work was really, really important. And I think right now, to be honest, on live, like they're pretty dang close, maybe even a little weak. Like I think like Mel and Warwick might be a tiny weak. They don't really do as much damage as I'd like. Victor has too much utility, but like the actual distribution of them and how often they appear right now feels pretty close to correct.
Yeah, if anything, it's like the 2-star can probably be better than they currently are. But we actually we eventually got into a pretty good spot. This is the time more when we started doing the like 8 games a day, focus on balance, then spend the next day doing a ton of balance changes, and then going from there. Kind of, we're basically like pre-patching the set because we only had 1 week for PBE this time, and it was like we go to PBE and then 2 days later it's branch cut, and then we have the A patch like the weekend after, and so we had like no time PBE. Mort was like, yeah, we're just gonna jam this out for the month essentially. And that's how we were able to get a lot closer.
And it's funny, I know I ended up losing the bet saying I was confident in the balance and whatnot because of like the bugs and whatever, but like the amount of progress we made in this month was so good. Like if people saw the set when we started these jam days, it's like I don't regret these jam days. I do think there were a few like we can do them better, but like it got a lot better because of it, you know.
Yeah, sort of with a bit of outside observation because I wasn't working closely with 13, but knowing that short PBE cycle was being counterbalanced by just a lot of internal playtesting, I think is something that's was
I
done well
we had
for
the
13.
short PBE cycle.
Yeah, that was terrifying me. That, if I was not leading the set, but if I was, I would be like, oh no, only 1 week of PBE because we can get so much, even not for balance reasons, but like just we've said it before, we've said it a million times. We within an hour of PBE being live, more games of that set have been played than we'll ever be able to play internally. The scale is massive.
I'm not going to like sugarcoat the fact that we launched and had to do like a B patch and a C patch and a D patch or whatever. But I will say, if you look at 1 week after launch and pretend that was another week of PBE, it's like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, but it was pretty bad. Like we had those B, C, and D. There were a lot of exploits and
But even within that like 1 month, we made so much progress within that 1 month because it was like everything was very deliberate. We would play to win. We would keep track of like scores of everything. We would keep track of the carries, anomalies. We had internal data basically, and it doesn't compare to PBE obviously, but it got us a lot farther than we had been able to do in previous sets.
This happened a little bit before all of this. I think it actually, the bulk of the conversations were when you were out, Mort. But one of the biggest conversations around 13 was, how the heck are we going to have anomalies appear? Like how, where, like that. We went back and forth on that for a really long time. And I remember it happened when you were out because I pinged you and I was like, hey, dude, this is going to be my final proposal of what we're going to do. I need to know that you're on board with this because you're not coming back for another couple weeks. If you come back and table flip, I'm going to be stressed.
Yep.
Yeah.
That
was hard.
We tested them moving all around. We tested them earlier. We tested them later. We tested 2 per game. I like I said, I think of all the things we tested, though, I'm very happy with where we ended up. If you told me it was 4-5 instead of 4-6, maybe. Other than that, I'm actually like, great. I think it's pretty close. I think I see people die before anomaly all the time. And I think any earlier would be like, I haven't hit my carry, so.
There were a lot of considerations around this too, because it's like you want people not only timing of like deaths, but it's also like if people have to make a choice for the augment, then immediately make a choice for anomaly. It's a lot, or like they go to the carousel, they come back, and it's something pops up, and it's like here's an anomaly. It's very overwhelming, so we had to find the right
The right
spot there.
spot, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we're on 14/21, getting ready for our finals. It's end of October. Yep. Again, just trying to fix jinx and stuff like that. And it's the Tactician's Crown patch. And I gotta say, for better or worse, somehow, like I think other than set 9, every finals has been really entertaining, right? Like set 10 was entertaining, set 11 was entertaining, like and Macau Open was like we've had good competitive metas when it matters. I think 9 was the one exception. So like as much as Magic and Mayhem was rough with balance and whatever, we ended up in an okay spot, and the finals was fun to watch. So title wins again.
Yeah, and behind the scenes at this point, it's a lot of stuff we can't even talk about. I mean, we're getting some 14 is very in swing. We're playtesting that occasionally. Emphasis on 13, of course. We're getting more details on. I don't remember exactly when we did all the 15 stuff, but we got
15's
kind of an
moving.
idea. Even 16, a tiny bit. We got some stuff established.
Talker's Trials for our 13 is happening as well. And this was nice because shout out to Sloan and Alex. This was one of the first projects where we were just like, go. You know what Talker's Trials is, go make it. And they came back and like it was just good. It was one of the first times it felt like I just like, here's a couple minor notes. Otherwise, great, love it. You did good. Like they hit the goals, and I don't know. That was one of like the least painful projects I've ever had on TFT.
Yeah, I think we play tested it once more, and we were like, yeah, make a couple changes, then we're good. Like it was just really well done. And I think that was our biggest takeaway from the 12 version of it going into 13 was, oh, this is really good for players that just want to learn the set and just read stuff and just learn the champions and learn how to build a board. Because there's a lot of people on our team that just really struggle to get into TFT, and there's, so many players that feel the same. And seeing how excited they get when they're like, oh, I finally got to the last level, or like I finally beat Talkers. It's just really, really gratifying to see like so many players come to that mode.
It's even a smaller niche audience, but the players that just want to like go in there and relax and like hit every 3-star 5 cost and hit some of those insane jackpots and have like I get people sending me screenshots of like, hey, look, or they'll find the bugs where there's a bug someone sent me where it's like, are there only 26 copies of the 6 costs? Because I 3-star all of them but one, and I can't find the last copy. And you're like, I don't know, maybe. But thank you for finding that. Because they did it with infinite gold with the 9 Conqueror cash out. It's like, okay, cool. I love it. All right. 14/22. This is the final for fun patch. I don't even, like, I was so... Oh, I remember I made Charms cost 1 less gold. And I buffed and Placebo, and then I buffed a few things. I don't remember, like, we were so in the middle of 13 and everything else, I had like a day to pump this out. And so I don't even remember everything else, but Team Planner upgrades was a big one though. Team Planner, now you can do the like make your comps and everything like that. That's pretty nice.
Oh yeah, at this point we're gearing up for influencer stuff for 13.
Yep.
So it's around that exact time.
Yeah, I mean, we're hitting November
really
here.
busy.
This is like Arcane, the show is starting to show up, and some artifact balance to get ready for the next set, charms, So, and then 13 launches. So 14/23 we launch into the Arcane, and the way I think my boss has phrased it is the set was great. Retention's been good. Players have been enjoying it, but it was a rough launch. It was a very rough launch. So,
I think the thing that sticks out to me is just we can't get too deep into the numbers, but just the amount of time players are playing set 13 is crazy. Just like per session. Like they are playing a ton of TFT, which is really exciting. And I think it speaks to how deep the set is. And I think anomalies add a lot to that. I think the huge augment refresh adds a ton to that. There's just a ton of replayability in this set. So I think Sean and the team did a really good job getting it all together. Agreed, the launch wasn't perfect, but like the content behind that is really, really good.
I was looking at our team yesterday, and Nico's at like 697 games.
Oh, yeah, he's been saying he has soju level of games this set. He's nonstop.
Kent, you were gonna say something about the?
Oh no, yeah. Part of the roughness for set launch was just like there's so many individual pieces of content that not only we need to balance, but also we need to find and fix bugs for.
Yeah.
And that just finding them and fixing them both take time. And also sometimes they're like these very niche interactions that are not obvious at all. But with this many players, someone's gonna find something and then we're gonna have to fix it. And so yeah, with set launch, it's something that we're going to need to try to improve, but we had to deal with.
And this begs the question, right? And this is, I'm going to get a little deep here for Alex and I, but like set 13 has more content than we've ever had in a set, right? It's incredibly deep and it's showing with like player retention and stuff like that. But it also probably was us biting off a little more than we can chew, right? It's there's so much here, it's almost impossible to test it, which begs the question, how do we keep doing that, right? Like, is every set supposed to be this big? If it is, how, like, there's a tough question here. There's just like, game dev's hard,
Yeah, I have an answer to that, or at least I have a philosophical answer to that I would love to chat with this team about, not on camera.
Yeah, so just, I mean, these are the things we have to think about though, right? These are the hard problems. So
Also, we haven't talked about it really at all, but like the behind the scenes for 13 was pretty crazy in terms of like just the riot-wide program management of it all. Like 10 was pretty intense. Like Witty did a ton of work just within TFT, but it was like that on steroids in terms of like matching dates of when we can go to PBE because of when episodes drop and like making sure our content, everything had a code name. Every new champion had a code name internally, which I think we've done well not saying any of them so far, but
I mean, they're out there. The
Yeah.
code names are out there at this point because in Team Planner they're still in alphabetical order based on their code name, and some of the data miners have found them in files, so we can say the code names.
yeah.
Are we allowed to? Oh no, finish first.
No, I was gonna say, but yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to like Sean and Winston and everyone that had to deal with the behind the scenes stuff, like especially on publishing. Like it was monumental how much work was put into this Arcane moment.
Are we allowed to talk about that one Steb hero augment that had the wrong icon?
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
But that involves his code name, yeah?
Yeah, it's fine. Again, the code names are public. Code names are public.
His code name was Fish behind the scenes, and I think our
partner
that
team
got translated incorrectly, which led to Steb's icon being Fizz. So initially it was the same icon, except instead of Steb in the center, it was literally Fizz, and we're just like, what is this augment?
Is there a Fizz icon? What is going on?
Where is it supposed to go?
Yeah. Yep.
It was really funny. So last minute we had to fix that, but
that was a fun
shipping
one.
with 13 item bench rework.
Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you for bringing that up. That is something. God, when did we bring that up, Alec? Because you and I have wanted to ship that forever.
The whole time I've been here, so 3 years at least. Yeah.
Like we knew this was a pain point, and we finally worked with. Was it Christy?
Yep, Christy.
Yeah. She did a bunch of really good work, and like we could finally ship this thing, and like, oh God, thank God.
Yeah, this is a huge change, and I think it's landed really well.
It played out exactly as I predicted, which was the first week or so, people were like, this is weird, I'm not used to it. And as soon as a week passed, everyone's like, nope, it's great, love it, it's fine. I think the one thing we've goofed up on when we shipped it was merging items in the UI was way too slow, and we already fixed that, and now it's great, so it's fine, right? Like, I don't know. I think this is another one of those, like if we had our top 3 quality of life change, it's like loot orb distribution and this are like the top 2 for sure.
Just getting to see your items at Carousel now. Oh man, it's so good.
Yep. Team Planner might be third. Yeah.
And then we didn't talk about, this is also sunsetting of portals at the start of the game.
This one hasn't landed quite as well. Like it did what we wanted it to, which was simplify it. And Alex, I always like your story of your cousins playing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was home over the summer, and my cousins are from Germany and they were playing TFT for the first time. And watching their experience of going into their first game and trying to figure out what the hell was happening with portals was really eye-opening for me. Like, it's something I should have been more aware of already. But like seeing it in person, I was like, this is insane. Like, why are we having players come into a game and instantly make a decision of three things they don't know what any of them mean at all?
Yep. Yeah, so we made the change, and I've been saying for a while it's like new player targeted. And I think the positive has been we got rid of a lot of crappy portals no one liked anyway. But I think a lot of the players who liked portals are like, I want my agency back. And I'll say, when you land on the one you don't like for me, I don't like Ambessa in my ranked games. I don't like the trainer golem in my ranked games.
Get over it more.
No, I
People
know
love that
as a
thing.
player, dude. If I'm playing on PBE, I love it. Like, give me those games; they're fun. On my ranked games, it's like I had one the other day. I got Sorcerer, Artillerist, Sniper, and I was like, "Is there a worse combo?" I don't think so.
Triple class is kind of sad.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like, kill
triple
me.
class is sad, but I will say my design lead often says to play what the game gave you, and I guess I don't know. I guess I personally would have just done that.
I
That's
mean,
just,
I
that's-
did, and I got fifth. I was proud of my fifth, but like, but like I said, the players who liked that portal and that agency clearly felt like it was a downgrade, and we had to pay that cost, right? Like, we knew
For sure.
this wasn't going to be a home run, but it was like one of those necessary evils of like, get the game more approachable, get the game simpler. So yeah, cool.
One of the things to talk about is item components going from 12 to 14 as a baseline. We talked about how like sometimes you build Morello, but you can't get 3 items on your tank, 3 items on your carry anymore. That those games just, I think Mort asked the question when we were having a discussion. He's like, "Are you ever happy when you only have 12 items?" And everyone was like unanimously like, "No." Yeah, this is not just not fun anymore. You have to take an item augment, but now this way you have more options, and so you can play with that more.
So do you realize the side effect of what that caused, though? By the way, have you been hearing the latest complaint?
What's that?
The latest complaint is 0 gold Krugs.
Oh,
0
yeah.
gold Krugs is a result of this change because there's more items, and a result of a previous change, which was people were complaining when they got their items late because they use their items to establish their comp. And so remember how we made items skew more towards the front? So now,
Yeah.
because items skew more towards the front and there's more of them, Krugs usually has 0 gold, which has become the new complaint. So
Yeah, because you're getting a bunch of blue orbs, none of the silver or the gray ones, and so
Yep.
those all.
And that's why every time you do Raptors now, it's usually like 1 or 2 items and a bunch of gold because
Right.
it's all skewed on the front end. And yeah, so there's definitely still some work to do there, but it's just funny how like no matter where you put everything, there's always some like issue unless we literally just like every round we're guaranteed to give you a little bit of gold and a little bit of items, and so there's some work to do there.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, well then, so Into the Arcane launched. Patches were a little rough there, but the content was good. Players are enjoying it, which leads us into the Christmas patch. This was getting ready for Macau Open. This was okay. Speaking of the difficulties of this set, the layers between the evolved version and the not version, which then hit our bag sizes, which then hit our shop odds, and just if in case there was any uncertainty here, let me be very clear. All of these were oopsies. We did not intend to change the shop odds. There's no weird, like, we're trying to teach. We did not intend to change the bags. It was all just oops. Complete accident that no one noticed. That's exactly what it was. And we launched the set with the bag sizes wrong, and, like, no one noticed until data miners, and it was like, oh, crap.
This is not like you've been doing this for 13 sets. How did you not catch this? This is kind of a new thing because we evolved the set, and so that way we had to like merge layers in a different way that we've never done before in the past, and because of that, it caused some things that affected systems to be missed.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't notice until I saw a data miner ask the question in Froden's Discord. That was how we found out. It was like, oh crap, and then I went and checked and was like, God, I swore a lot. If my mods could see it, I would have added a lot of money to the swear jar. So I was not, yeah. So
not good to have missed these things.
Yep. But this is also when we add the 6 costs. And I think generally, other than Victor, like Victor was clearly a little too strong. I think the thing we missed, by the way, was we talked about this briefly on one of the co-streams, I think, but he had the Shred and Sunder back when we wanted to make sure itemless Victor was good. and then we changed his mana system, so itemless Victor was good. We should have removed the Shred and Sunder.
Yep.
So
He used to only cast once, and it would be like 22 seconds in a fight unless you had a mana item, which could accelerate up to like, 15, 16 seconds. But itemless meant you literally just don't get anything out of this unit, and so we added Shred and Sunder. We should have totally removed it.
Yep.
So, or at least weakened it, reduced it.
And then, yeah, behind the scenes, a lot of 14 and 15 stuff are getting pretty crazy. Kent, you're already starting to think about 14 quite a bit here.
Yep.
And then the other big one we have to talk about is Macau. So I got to say, traveling that far was exhausting. And Kent, I kind of want you to talk about Macau because you got to enjoy it. So I want you to talk about Macau.
Well, yeah, there was Mort definitely worked a lot. He was on screen a lot. Big highlight was memorable moment was day one. We had a bunch of technical difficulties, and they were like, we did a dev panel that morning, talking about the design of the set, and they were like, we need to stall maybe for like an hour. Can you guys do the dev panel again on screen?
Yeah, they had you, me, and Gangly. Gangly
Anyway,
was asking
yeah.
us the question, so we just did the dev panel again.
Yeah, we didn't get through everything, and Gangly was sad. Gangly was like, "Oh, I wanted to know the answer to like some of the later questions because they were like juicy questions." But it was fun. It was a very long day that day, though. I think that the players didn't get home until like 2 a.m. or something.
They sent, so I was there 15 hours. They sent us home at like 11:30 because they were like, "You guys need rest." But a bunch of the people who work behind the scenes who don't get the credit, like Sherman and his team and stuff like that, they were there till 2 a.m. finishing the games. And even the players were like still going, and the players wanted, like Sean's was streaming and wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
He's just like, no, my viewers are having a blast. Can we keep like, no, you got to leave. You got to leave. It was like
They were
an
having
insane day. But what was really cool is like, to support everyone, they brought a bunch of like McDonald's for all the competitors. They're just like, here's food to make sure you're good. They brought a bunch of pizza behind the scenes so everyone could like try to eat and keep working, and like it was pretty nuts. So
it was funny on some of the streams. People would be like mad at Riot for whatever reason, like, oh, Victor's OP, Riot, and then at some point someone comes over with like a bunch of food for the streamers, and they're like, Riot good. It's just like
but like I said,
changed.
you at least had time to like walk around and see players and
Yeah.
stuff. So like, what'd you think of the event?
Yeah, no, the event it's super cool because there's so much stuff to do on the side. You get to play Project K, you get to go to like take pictures at these events, you get to go to the panels, there's a shop. And also just seeing players, like I don't know if for those who watch on stream, you don't see as many people in the main section because everyone's kind of standing behind their favorite players. At some point, Tidal had like this gigantic crowd around him, everyone was cheering him on. There were these this group of K-pop stars that was there, QWER, and they had a bunch of press following them around. But two of them were like gamers, and they were playing, and there'd be big crowd around them too. And it just really, the energy is really hype. Being able to see all this live, and then afterwards being able to talk to some of the players, like, oh hey, what do you think of the meta? It's a new patch, so got to talk to some of the players like Q, and was like, yeah, this it was good, this is bad. These 6 costs look super cool, so it's fun and things like that. So yeah, the energy is really nice, and just having everyone get together. Yeah. Unfortunately, you didn't get to walk around much more.
No, I mean, like I said, I'm there to make sure the players are happy, and so I did. The only funny story I'll tell you is that 3 players were ballsy enough to ask to take my picture while in line in the bathroom. So there are 3 pictures somewhere around of me doing my usual like thumbs up or whatever with people in the bathroom. So it's fine.
I got a shot of Mort being stopped by somebody to take a photo on his way to the bathroom.
Yep.
And signing something, and it was just like a funny fan shot.
Yep.
Yeah, of Mort.
Cool. Witty, Alex, anything on your guys' end? I know you guys didn't get to go, so hey.
No,
Yeah,
the only thing I was gonna say is I remember at one point, I think it was over the summer, Sherman was like, hey, he's a big Magic fan, and he was like, hey, what if we did an unset for TFT? And that's where that started. I don't know how you guys will have to share how it landed there, but like watching that, the Set 13 team was the one that put it all together, but watching that live was so fun. And yeah, that was all Sherman's kind of early idea, and we were just like, what is a TFT version of that? And I think the Set 13 team had a really fun time cooking up that mode.
Yeah, the actual like game went well. Everyone was laughing. I think the skill difference in the competitors was a little weird, and then I think they picked some of the most boring portals of the options. It was like, no, you picked
They
the
didn't pick
set
Food
gets
Fight
bigger.
Tactics.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, the Food Fight Tactics one would have been fun, but the people who were at the convention got to play it, and a bunch of them had fun. So I definitely saw a lot of players going, "Can we get this live?" And it was like, "Nope, you can't."
Yeah, to share what Julian said, they asked him like, "Let's bring this live," and Julian's like, "No, you really only want to play this once. Like, this is not an experience that you want to have over and over with the sniper killing everything." So.
Oh yeah, the Hextech sniper rifle. That thing is so stupid. It's so funny. It's good.
Yeah.
Witty, any thoughts?
No, it was great to see Macau, go well. I mean, that's just such a monumental effort for the team. I'm always sad that the broadcast time is like such weird hours being here, and so deliriously watched various pieces of it. But I don't know, being able to do these like opens with so many players and kind of make a LAN event of it is. Especially having so many other games kind of lose their LAN culture or not be able to support something like that. It's also as a longtime Magic player, I'm like, yes, I love this stuff existing.
From what I can tell, and I can't say I asked everybody, but like everyone I talked to there as a player was like, I loved it. I'm glad this was here. I'm glad I came. I didn't hear anyone like say it was a bad experience, and so. I'd be curious, like, I haven't done a, like, quantifiable survey or anything. Maybe there's a couple players who hated it or something. I don't know. But it seems like these are great and players seem to have fun with them. So,
one thing on the, like, balance/design side of things, I was a bit concerned at first about, like, having this happen, 2 days after a patch came out. But it ended up playing out really well with, like, the meta developing there, with people finding out more about Emissary, more about Renata, regions kind of learning from each other, and that felt good. I don't know, that's not a competitor take. Obviously, they don't have enough as much time to like learn the patch, but that part played out well.
That's a great segue, because I think this set has actually been one of the best examples where it's like we actually have a decent patch. The tournament was good. We did a light B patch, and then. Like, it's been the holiday patch, and, like, the meta's still evolving, and there's a lot that's playable. It's like, there's clearly a few things, like, there's clearly some optimization, but, like, it's in a good spot. And, like, this is one of those arguments where it's like, maybe, like, if we could ever get the game to this state reliably, then it would be like, you don't need to patch as often. Now, granted, we don't ever usually end up in this state, and even now, I've definitely had a bunch of players reach out and, like, hey, when's the next patch? Because, like, I'm starting to I need some change. We've kind of taught our players that patches come, and so we're starting to hit the limit of that, but it's pretty solid. All right, one other thing to talk about to wrap up the year, because it's one other big news thing that I'm sure people want to hear about, and that's augment stats. So set 13, we made the decision pretty last minute to disable augment stats. And for the people who like that, they were not thrilled. But for everybody else, it seems like it's been okay. Alex, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, when was it? Set 9 was the first time?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. This has been, I mean, it's been my crusade for a long time since I've been here. Like, and Mort pinged me, and he was like, I don't remember exactly what you said, like something around like competitive players, like the tides are turning a little bit, around how they feel about it.
Yep.
And I was just like, all right, that's the green light, baby. Let's get rid of these things. And it was very last minute. And I should have been a little bit more patient, because it caused a little bit of stress for engineers and stuff to like an UX to actually move it off of the end of game screen. But I will stand by that. I think it is insanely healthy for TFT that we do not have stats around augments. I've been adamant that we don't add any mechanic. I think since I've joined, we haven't added any mechanic stuff to the end of the game for this reason as well.
Yep.
I don't want everything to be optimized. I think there's fun in discovery. It's cool to find new combinations. Mort always uses the learning to spell example with Annie. I just think it's so much healthier for TFT. I think this is one of the reasons we're seeing the meta still develop on this really long patch, at least a part of it. So, yeah, for the haters, hate away. I think this is such a healthy change.
So you say hate away, I'm the one getting the death threats, but
I know, it's great. It's my crusade, and you're the lightning rod.
Yeah, I'm always excited by more like player discussion happening is the other big piece, right? Like people can try to have sort of tier listy or
Yep.
like meta discussions around things, but as soon as there's stats, you then are talking about the stats and you can make arguments, this is this number but is better in situations, but it kind of loses a lot of the value of those conversations.
Yeah, I actually love the subreddit recently does like an augment daily discussion, and they'll just pick an augment and like everyone just talks about that augment. I think that's so cool.
Yep, agreed. So, yeah, probably not undoing this change anytime soon for anyone curious. But so far, it's been, like I said, generally positive. And, we talked about how players are playing the set. Like, it doesn't seem to be negatively impacting us in really any way. So, yeah. Cool. I guess the only other thing I can say about this year is, I kind of hinted at it a little bit there, but it was a lot. Like, the team has grown. We're doing a lot. I know I wrapped this year up and my brain was like, I've been at, so 2025 actually marks 20 years as a game designer for me. I think 2024 has pushed me harder than any other year in my career. So pretty wild of a year.
From Duck Hunt to TFT, the Mort story.
I didn't know they had video games in 1830. Yeah. Thanks for the old joke. My stream
All
has
in
been
color.
brutal lately with the old jokes. The most recent one they got me with was, you shaved your beard, you look a lot younger. Now you only look 60.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks.
No, I agree though. Like even just running through all the stuff that happened this last year, like I feel tired now. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
we did so much
There you
and
go.
worked on so much. And we like what's crazy is we haven't even talked about any of the stuff that Witty's been working on in
Yep.
Futureland. And like
Yep.
that's like so much on top of it. Like
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
All the stuff where I was like behind the scenes was just like, oh yeah, just it says 2 sentences, so it can't be that much, right? Yeah.
A lot of work planning and getting things ready for 2025 and farther future, and
Plus
it's
even some 2026 and yeah.
Yep. And so, hopefully it all feels we're continuing to be ambitious. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we want to get into the game. We always want sets to be amazing. And so hopefully all that work leading into next year, really, hopefully players can feel it.
I think if anything, that's the scariest part, and this is part of being like a live service game dev as opposed to, but like, I'll be honest, 2025 doesn't look much easier.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was about to say 2024 has been a hard year, but I'm thinking about 2025 right now, and the things that we have like slated, it's
Yeah,
not much
I don't know if
lighter
it's
than
gonna be
this.
easier. Yeah, it's
It's gonna be a lot.
yeah.
We are more prepared, but we are also more ambitious, I think
Yes.
is.
Yes, that's true. And even like my talk with like Bryce and stuff, right? It's like there continue to be evolutions of the set that we're going to take into account and stuff like that. I've already got some ideas for like classes, and yep, it's gonna be good. So cool. All right. Well, I think that is a good wrap up point. So I think we'll do wrap ups here if anyone wants to. So Kent, we'll start with you. Anything you want to say to end 2024 and move on to 2025?
Let's see. I mean, thanks to everyone for being engaged with this stuff, being a good community. TFT community is still like just insane. And when I was a player, this is kind of what I've always wanted things to be. And I'm really happy to be on the other side now, but being able to see all the player interaction and things like that, and seeing how everyone's loving Set 13, that's amazing too. So, yeah, Happy New Year, everyone.
Nice. Witty?
Yeah, I mean, this was, again, it was a big year, but it was a fun year, and hopefully it also showed kind of the opposite side of getting ahead of a lot of this stuff is hopefully the team has also showed, well, we don't want to just be the type of team that's saying, we're working on all this future stuff, and so you don't get stuff in the immediate term. This year, hopefully showed we tried a lot of things with big augment refreshes, ambitious mechanics, just random things like talkers that we were just excited to do. Set revival. It's weird to think about that as the first year of set revivals.
Yep.
I'm like, that seems like something we've been doing forever, but I'm excited that that's gone really well. So, gosh, it's almost easy to forget all the different things that happened during the year, even after going through it like this.
Yep. Cool.
But yeah, I'm excited for the future.
And by the way, Witty, you're like I said, you've been on the team since literally like day one.
We're almost at 6 years.
You're almost at 6 years. That's longer than most people work on a single video game. So that's
I would not have predicted that, at least certainly not in the beginning, and it's it's surreal at this point. I can't even like.
Gonna make it to 10 years.
Who knows? Who knows? I'm also a little tired, but you know.
Yes. All right, Alex.
Yeah, I think to echo Woody's point, like I think the big thing that sticks out to me as ran through all of that was just like all of the cool stuff on the side that we've been able to ship. Like when in the past when we were doing mid sets and stuff, like we wouldn't have had time for talkers. We wouldn't have had time for artifacts. We just literally wouldn't have the people available to work on that stuff. And now we have people like Witty who aren't, bogged down in doing mid set content and they can just go and do artifacts for a couple weeks and like just ship something cool and ship something fast. And I think the conversation that sticks out to me so much over this last year was with talkers, because I was meeting with our insights team who does like data and research, and they were like, "What are like the goals for like what are like how many players do we want to play? Like how long do we want them to play?" And literally, I was just like, "I just want to ship this cool thing and be like, do you guys like this? Is this fun? Like, look at this cool thing we made. Check this out." So I don't know. It just really embodies our team a lot. That we are the auto battler space in a lot of ways, but we don't act like it. Like I think we continue to act like what's next? What are we gonna do? Like what's the cool thing? Like where are our weaknesses? What can we make better? Like I think about it all the time. Everyone on this call thinks about it all the time. So yeah, it's just really inspiring. And then as always, I'll give my yearly shout out to all the people behind the scenes, like audio, UX, visual design, engineers, publishing. Like TFT is a huge team with a lot of people that you will never see or hear from that put in so much love. So I want to give a shout out to all of them.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I can't really top that, so let's just end on that. That's going to do it from us. 2024 down, 2025, and many more to go. It's going to be a lot to go. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you made it this far, blueberry nachos. And yeah. All right. That's going to do it from us. Until next time, take it easy.
See ya.
Bye.